Chapter 621. Heavenly Tribulation Triggered. Five-colored tribulation cloud. Lu Qing landed on that mountain peak and looked around. The mountain peak he chose was grand and majestic, far more towering than the surrounding peaks. Towering into the clouds, it exuded a grandeur that surpassed the nearby peaks with its mere presence. It had the aura of climbing to the top, overlooking the little hills, which perfectly matched his current state of mind. This time, crossing the tribulation, he would ascend to the summit. Lu Qing's heart and spirit were wanton, and with a burst of boldness, he raised his head to the sky, without any hesitation, immediately mobilizing his entire aura, connecting his mind and spirit with the mysterious energy. Suddenly, the wind and clouds changed color, and an anomaly appeared above his head. A powerful heavenly might descended, and a massive tribulation cloud vortex slowly appeared. With the emergence of this phenomenon, all living creatures within 100 miles sensed it. The terrifying heavenly might made countless living creatures in the mountains shiver. Especially those near the mountain peak where Lu Qing was. It was as if the end had come, and they desperately fled outward. What is that? It's a tribulation cloud. Someone is crossing the tribulation here in the deep mountain. What terrifying heavenly might, who on earth is crossing the tribulation? Could it be the legendary Golden Core tribulation? The tribulation cloud vortex triggered by Lu Qing was so noisy that the dreadful power could be felt even from 100 miles away. In the 10,000 Great Mountains, because of the emergence of a secret realm, many martial arts experts above the innate realm had originally gathered. Moreover, due to the actions of a young man in a white robe in the secret realm, many experts had fled into the dense forest to hide. Now feeling the power of the tribulation cloud vortex, they were all shocked, and they were extremely curious about which expert was crossing the tribulation in this deep mountain. But despite their curiosity, not a single expert in the mountains dared to approach that side. They felt the terror of that heavenly might even from dozens or hundreds of miles away, with a vague feeling of suffocation in their heart and spirit. If they went any closer, they feared they wouldn't last much longer before succumbing to that heavenly might, and their heart and spirit would collapse. Not to mention that the breakthrough of a strong person is most taboo to be peeped at. If they inadvertently caused displeasure to that being crossing the tribulation, then they would have no place to die. It's time to cross the Golden Core tribulation. In the leaving fire tripod, Yan was also sensing the commotion outside. There was an indescribable sense of shock in its heart. Although it had watched Lu Qing's cultivation all along the way, it deeply appreciated the cultivation talent of this heaven's favored child. But seeing Lu Qing about to cross the Golden Core tribulation still made it feel shocked. Too fast. Lu Qing's cultivation speed was really too fast. How long had it been since it first met Lu Qing? All in all, not even a year, right? And in less than a year, the boy who initially had only innate realm cultivation was about to cross the tribulation to achieve the Golden Core. This terrifying cultivation speed, let alone seen, even just heard, Yan had never heard of it before. In the entire ancient immortal cultivation era, even when immortal Dao development was at its peak, such a devil has never appeared. Yan was virtually standing in the spiritual artifact space, carefully sensing the movements outside. In the corner, a small divine soul was observing it. What's this artifact spirit going crazy about now? The demon cultivator's divine soul saw Yan's appearance, couldn't help but frown. However, he did not dare to step forward and inquire. Through the time spent together, he could also see that this artifact spirit intensely disliked him. It had even repeatedly proposed in front of him to Lu Qing to have him completely destroyed. So all along, he had been humble and did his best not to provoke it. After all, this was the territory of the artifact spirit, and he could never defeat it. I don't know when I will gain the master's trust and retrieve my body, the demon cultivator thought helplessly. Is this my Golden Core tribulation? On top of the mountain peak, Lu Qing looked at the tribulation cloud vortex brewing above his head, feeling the mighty force enveloping him, his expression calm. Not bad, much stronger than the innate tribulation back then. I just don't know what color my tribulation cloud will be. The deeper the accumulation, the stronger the heavenly tribulation that could be triggered. After crossing the tribulation successfully, the foundation would also become increasingly solid. So Lu Qing was very much looking forward to what color the tribulation cloud will be, given his accumulation. I don't know what color young master's tribulation cloud will be. In the leaving fire tripod, Yen was also guessing. The golden core tribulation, based on the different colors of the tribulation cloud, could roughly estimate the magnitude of its power. For instance, the weakest heavenly tribulation was typically gray, the next level up was red, and higher than that was golden. However, the golden tribulation cloud was already the highest grade of tribulation cloud recorded in the annals. Throughout the ancient immortal cultivation era, even in times of immense genius, not many could trigger a golden tribulation cloud. And those who could summon a golden tribulation cloud and cross the tribulation successfully, except for a few who perished due to accidents, without exception, all achieved primordial spirit and became major powers in the cultivation world. Red or gold? With young master's tribulation thunder, the tribulation cloud must be golden, and it should be the most profound gold. Yen confidently guessed. There's no help for it, the shock Lu Qing brought to it was really too great. To be able to reverse slay a golden core while still in the foundation establishment realm, and furthermore an exceedingly powerful old golden core realm. This record, even in the entire ancient immortal cultivation era, no heaven's pride had ever achieved it. So it had every reason to believe that the tribulation cloud triggered by Lu Qing this time must be golden, and the highest grade of gold. If nothing unexpected happens, it should be a golden tribulation cloud. Lu Qing was likewise guessing. From the legacy left by the Lihua sect, he also knew that in the history of the cultivation world, the golden core tribulation, the highest grade of tribulation cloud that ever appeared, was golden. He was confident that his accumulation would not pale compared to any heaven's pride of the ancient cultivation world. So his tribulation cloud should also be the highest grade gold. Both person and artifact spirit were predicting that the tribulation cloud soon to be brewing would be golden. However, when that massive tribulation cloud vortex continued to condense and gather. Finally, when the brewed tribulation cloud revealed its color, Lu Qing and Yen were both stunned. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 colors? 5-colored tribulation cloud? When Yen in the spiritual artifact space saw the color of the tribulation cloud, it nearly jumped up. How is this possible? Yan's face was full of disbelief, because the color of the tribulation cloud was really beyond its expectations. 5-colored tribulation cloud, this had never appeared during the ancient immortal cultivation era. Even in the very old annals, which Lihua sect had once collected, rumored to be relics from possibly the previous cultivation era, there were no records that a golden core tribulation would produce 5 colors. This had already completely defied common sense, beyond Yan's knowledge. Chapter 622. Golden Core Grade. Inhaling Tribulation Thunder. Domineering Crossing the Tribulation. 5-colored Tribulation Cloud? When Lu Qing saw the color of the Tribulation Cloud clearly, he paused for a moment. However, compared to Yan's shock, he was much calmer. It's not red, nor is it golden, but an unprecedented 5 colors beyond the norm. Is it because my foundation is too profound, or because of my 5 elements body? Or perhaps, it's due to both reasons. No wonder Lu Qing thought this way. The 5-colored tribulation cloud easily reminded him of the power of the 5 elements. While the heavenly tribulation hadn't fully brewed yet, awaiting the descent of tribulation lightning, Lu Qing activated his superpower to gaze at the vast 5-colored tribulation cloud. Soon, several lines of information floated in his vision. 5-colored heavenly tribulation, manifested by the power of the heavenly Tao. It is the tribulation that must be crossed to achieve the perfect golden core. Heavenly tribulation is a test by the will of heavenly Tao for cultivators. Crossing it means life, failing means death. Golden cores are divided into grades: upper, middle, lower, and perfect golden core. To achieve the perfect golden core, one must cross the 5-colored heavenly tribulation. Five-colored heavenly tribulation is formed by the condensation of the five elements origin of the heavenly Tao, first crossing the five elements tribulation lightning, then crossing the divine soul tribulation, before it can be crossed. Five-colored heavenly tribulation, the tribulation for the perfect golden core? After Lu Qing finished reading the information floating from the tribulation cloud, he was both shocked and delighted. Shocked because the appearance of this five-colored tribulation cloud was indeed due to his profound accumulation, which brought it together. Delighted because, as long as he could cross this heavenly tribulation, he could form the perfect golden core. Though he didn't know what mystical qualities the perfect golden core possessed, just from the name it was undoubtedly extraordinary. It turns out the golden core is divided into so many grades. I've never seen this in the records. Lu Qing possessed most of the legacy of the Lihua sect, yet there was no record of the grades of golden core among them. Even Yen, the artifact spirit who has lived for tens of thousands of years and seen much, had never mentioned this. So Lu Qing guessed that cultivators in this world probably lacked knowledge in this regard. After all, in this world, spiritual energy would extinguish roughly every tens of thousands of years, severing the immortal Tao. Though tens of thousands of years may seem long, compared to the entire history of cultivation, it's relatively insignificant. Without enough foundation, failing to organize a complete cultivation system is quite normal. I wonder if the demon cultivator's world has information on this. Lu Qing thought suddenly. He decided to find a time later on to ask those demon cultivators properly. But all of this would have to wait until he could cross this heavenly tribulation. Various thoughts revolved in Lu Qing's mind. However, thanks to the miraculousness of his superpower, having probed the details of this five-colored heavenly tribulation, the pressure in his heart had eased quite a bit. And just when Lu Qing was contemplating, the five-colored tribulation cloud in the sky had completely formed, starting to flicker with lightning. Then, let me see what formidable power this heavenly tribulation that can form the perfect golden core possesses. Lu Qing gazed at the sky. A boundless sense of grandeur emerged in his heart. As if sensing Lu Qing's thoughts, the tribulation cloud in the sky sped up the condensation of tribulation lightning. What a terrifying power of the heavenly tribulation! Is such a heavenly tribulation really something a person can cross? That unnamed strong cultivator might end up perishing under this heavenly tribulation. Hundreds of miles away, various powerful figures hidden in dense forests turned pale when the five-colored tribulation cloud formed and the power of the heavenly tribulation surged. Even from such a distant location, the pressure brought by the heavenly tribulation still shook their heart and spirit, making it hard to bear. They couldn't imagine how terrifying the power of the heavenly tribulation must be for someone directly under it. Many strong cultivators began to doubt whether the mysterious cultivator about to cross the tribulation could really survive it. The thoughts of outsiders naturally couldn't affect Lu Qing. He kept watching the tribulation cloud above, continuously adjusting his breath to resist the pressure of the heavenly tribulation while maintaining his peak condition at all times. Finally, he saw that the flashing lightning within the tribulation cloud vortex reached a pinnacle. With a roar, a dazzling thick white lightning bolt struck down towards him. First white. Come on! Watching the descending white tribulation lightning, Lu Qing showed no fear. His gaze was bright, elevating his spirit to the utmost. He didn't even use defensive magic, simply stood upright waiting for the tribulation lightning to land. Boom! Though described at length, the speed of the tribulation lightning was actually extremely fast. Descending from high above, it struck Lu Qing in an instant. Immediately, with the deafening sound of the tribulation lightning, the peak where Lu Qing stood was instantly shrouded in countless flashes of lightning. Countless flowers, grasses, and trees on the mountaintop also turned to ashes instantly, disappearing. Withstanding it purely with his physical body, young master is being too reckless. In the leaving fire tripod, Yen was deeply alarmed upon seeing this scene. It had seen that Lu Qing didn't even employ the body treasure light, but purely relied on his physical body to withstand this first tribulation lightning bolt. One must know, This is an unprecedented five-colored heavenly tribulation. Its power is still unknown, and Lu Qing's approach was excessively daring. Unfortunately, no matter how anxious Yan was, it dared not send messages to disturb Lu Qing. Crossing tribulation is not trivial. One must not get distracted. If its message caused Lu Qing to lose focus and ultimately fail the crossing, that would truly be a crime. Chapter 623. So that's it. This white tribulation thunder not only contains the power of heavenly tribulation, but also embodies the sharp essence of the gold principle, capable of cutting through and shattering everything. On the mountaintop, Lu Qing, who was engulfed by the tribulation thunder, did not die. At this moment, although his physical body was wrecked and riddled with holes, looking extremely terrifying, he remained calm, without a trace of pain on his face. On the contrary, he was carefully sensing and analyzing the tribulation thunder that invaded his body. After a round of analysis, Lu Qing immediately understood the essence of this first white tribulation thunder. In simple terms, this five elements tribulation thunder is brewed from the power of heavenly tribulation combined with the power of the five elements. When added together, its power multiplies geometrically. It is more than dozens of times stronger than ordinary heavenly tribulations. This first white tribulation thunder is brewed from the power of heavenly tribulation combined with the power of the gold element law. In addition to the destructive power of heavenly tribulation itself, it also possesses unparalleled sharpness, capable of cutting and crushing everything. Fortunately, although the power of this tribulation thunder is terrifying, I can still withstand it. Moreover, the power of the gold principle seems to be absorbable. Lu Qing looked terrifying, but he already had confidence in his heart. He immediately operated the five elements body refining technique, using the power of the tribulation thunder to temper himself while taking the opportunity to absorb the power of the gold principle within it. Because his cultivation technique was of the five elements, and during his previous seclusion cultivation, he absorbed and refined a large amount of five elements spiritual liquid. His body had gradually built a foundation of five-element Tao physique. Hence, he could quite easily absorb and integrate the power of the gold principle within the tribulation thunder into his physical body and spiritual power. Even the space of the forehead acupoint was also absorbing the power of the law. At the same time, the power of Lu Qing's physical body, which had already reached its limit and couldn't advance, began to strengthen again. Lu Qing felt these changes and a trace of joy flashed through his heart. Sure enough, the path of body cultivation lies in breaking and rebuilding, and this heavenly tribulation is the best tempering for me. He immediately began to absorb the surrounding tribulation thunder more diligently. Thus, a strange scene occurred. As Lu Qing absorbed the tribulation thunder, his body, initially riddled with holes and in tatters, began to gradually heal, and the scars gradually disappeared. What's the situation? The young master is actually cultivating within the tribulation thunder, absorbing the tribulation thunder? Yan, inside the leaving fire tripod, seeing this scene, was so shocked that its eyes almost bulged out, could hardly believe everything it was seeing. Originally, it was hesitating about whether to take Lu Qing into the leaving fire tripod when he couldn't hold on. In that case, even if the crossing failed, at least his life could be preserved. After all, the leaving fire tripod is a middle-grade spiritual device. A mere golden core tribulation couldn't truly destroy it. But now, seeing this scene, Yan realized it was overthinking. Lu Qing's current state, far from looking unable to hold on, looked instead like he was unsatisfied. Lu Qing indeed was unsatisfied. He was absorbing the tribulation thunder, enjoying the excitement of his power continually increasing. But suddenly, that feeling was interrupted. When he opened his eyes, he discovered that the first gold element tribulation thunder had been completely absorbed and consumed by him. Lu Qing immediately looked toward the sky. Come on! That first tribulation thunder shouldn't be your limit, right? This scene left Yan speechless once more. What had it just witnessed, the young master, being a tribulation crosser, was actually provoking the heavenly tribulation. Does he not know that heavenly tribulations are manifestations of the heavenly Tao's will, and cannot be provoked? As expected, Seemingly sensing Lu Qing's disrespect, the tribulation cloud vortex in the sky suddenly expanded a bit more. Brighter thunder light began to brew and gather. "Ha-ha! That's more like it." Lu Qing laughed heartily. Perhaps because of Lu Qing's provocation, the speed at which the tribulation cloud vortex gathered thunderlight this time was tenfold faster than last time. It didn't take long for another tribulation thunder to come crashing down with tremendous power. And this time, the tribulation thunder was green. Boom! The green tribulation thunder struck Lu Qing firmly. But oddly enough, unlike the previous one, this tribulation thunder didn't cause any destructive damage to the environment. On the contrary, as the green tribulation thunder spread, flowers and plants surprisingly emerged on the mountain peak. In an instant, the vegetation previously destroyed by the gold tribulation lightning seemed to have been restored. Even on Lu Qing's body, flowers and plants began to grow. The flowers and plants not only grew from his body, but their roots also burrowed deeper, embedding themselves deeply into Lu Qing's body, absorbing his flesh, spiritual power, and all his vitality, causing Lu Qing's body to quickly wither, shrinking by 2 sizes in an instant. So this time it's the wood tribulation lightning. Unexpectedly, the power of the wood law, known as the source of vitality, can be so terrifying when it becomes violent. Feeling the changes within his body, Lu Qing's eyes flashed with surprise. This wood tribulation lightning seemed less catastrophic than the previous gold tribulation lightning. Yet its strange nature far surpassed it. This death method, with flowers and plants covering one's body, absorbing all vitality and flesh to the point of death, was chilling to the bone. However, if it's about absorbing my life energy, let's see who can absorb more. Lu Qing immediately operated a spell as the 5 elements gourd in his Dan Tian Qi Si also vibrated, exerting a strong suction force. Under such dual absorption, the flowers and plants rooted in Lu Qing, absorbing his flesh and life energy, trembled. Not only did they expel the life energy they'd absorbed from Lu Qing, but in their frantic writhing, they also transformed into threads of green wood law power, absorbed by Lu Qing into his body. What a strange heavenly tribulation! But the young master seems to be no less unusual. Inside the leaving fire tripod, Yan saw Lu Qing's body covered with flowers and plants and felt its hair stand on end and tingles down its spine. It had never seen such a manifestation of a heavenly tribulation. What kind of bizarre heavenly tribulation was this, evolving into flowers and plants to absorb a tribulation crosser's vitality until they perished as a dried corpse? Such a tribulation crossing scene. Not only had Yan never seen it, but it had never even heard of it. Fortunately, it saw that Lu Qing seemed to have found a way to deal with it. Not only could he resist the life force extraction of those flowers and plants, but he also countered and absorbed them into his body. So, in Yan's view, although this unprecedented 5-colored heavenly tribulation was certainly strange and terrifying, it seemed that Lu Qing, as the tribulation crosser, was no less extraordinary. His performance at the moment did not exhibit the struggles typical of ordinary tribulation crossers. He was almost stranger than the heavenly tribulation. Yan's grumbling inside the leaving fire tripod naturally went unheard by Lu Qing. Although he seemed to handle this wood tribulation lightning simply, it wasn't as easy as it looked, requiring full concentration and the cooperation of the 5 elements gourd for true absorption and integration. And with his continuous absorption, not only was all the flowers and plants on his body fully absorbed, but even the vegetation evolved from the power of the wood law around him was absorbed completely by him. His physical body not only fully recovered but also strengthened further. The spiritual power within him, having fused with 2 types of law power consecutively, began to move restlessly, as if it was on the verge of a transformation. But ultimately, after a moment of fluctuation, it calmed down again. Lu Qing understood what this meant. To step from the foundation establishment stage into the golden core realm, the most crucial step is to integrate the spiritual power within with the power of the laws, and ultimately evolve it into mana. His cultivation is based on 5 elements spiritual power, and currently, it cannot transform. Clearly, it lacks enough integrated law power. As for the missing law power, it's within the tribulation clouds above. Seeing this, Lu Qing raised his head, looking up at the tribulation cloud vortex in the sky. A greedy gleam appeared in his eyes. Come on, continue. Chapter 624. Mana emerges. Golden core forms. Boom! A soil yellow tribulation lightning struck down, hitting Lu Qing. In an instant, an incredibly heavy pressure crushed down on Lu Qing, as if to completely grind him into meat paste. The entire mountain peak sank under such terrifying gravity. The rocks shattered, turning into dust. Boo! The powerful pressure caught Lu Qing off guard, causing him to spit out a mouthful of blood. His bones and muscles creaked under the pressure, breaking inch by inch. The blood he spat out even contained fragments of internal organs. Is this the gravity of the fifth soil tribulation thunder? Sensing the omnipresent mountain-like weight crushing every inch of his muscles and bones, Lu Qing understood. Indeed, this was already the fifth tribulation lightning that Lu Qing had triggered. Before this, he had already crossed through the water tribulation lightning and the fire tribulation thunder. It's safe to say that each was terrifying. Especially the water tribulation lightning, which transformed into poison through the water principle, almost making Lu Qing capsize in the gutter and dissolve completely. Fortunately, Lu Qing was more resilient in the end. Not only did he endure the deadly tribulation, but he also successfully integrated the power of laws contained within the tribulation lightning into his body. This greatly enhanced the power of his physical body once again, especially his spiritual power, which was constantly fluctuating and distorting, seeming on the verge of a true transformation. I just need to absorb and fuse the power of the soil law, and that should be enough. Despite the countless gravities weighing down on him, with his body nearly shattered, Lu Qing was not panicked, but rather somewhat delighted. The saying goes that one must break before they can build, and the way of body cultivation is to constantly destroy oneself through tempering to break limits and achieve breakthroughs. Having been tempered by the previous four tribulation lightnings, his body greatly strengthened and became incredibly resilient. But to undergo a real transformation, he was still a bit short. This soil tribulation lightning came at just the right time. Lu Qing immediately operated his mental method, beginning to devour the tribulation lightning within his body, and the power of soil law contained within. With the experience of the previous four tribulation lightnings, the process of absorbing the power of law this time was smoother for Lu Qing. Soon enough, all the power of law was absorbed by him, and the tribulation lightning disappeared. The soil tribulation lightning was also smoothly crossed by Lu Qing. Why does it still feel like there's something missing? However, although he crossed the tribulation lightning, Lu Qing did not feel happy. At this moment, the five forces of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth were interwoven and gestating within his spiritual power, merging with the five elements' attributes his cultivation had produced. This made his spiritual power extremely pure and strong to the utmost limit. In the Dan Tian Chi Si, it formed a seemingly illusionary yet harmonious Dan shape. But no matter how much this Dan shape spiritual power twisted and fluctuated, it couldn't cause a qualitative change to transform into mana. Without transforming into mana, he couldn't condense a true magic power golden core and enter the golden core realm. I've crossed all the five elements tribulation lightning. What else could be missing? Lu Qing looked up toward the sky, only to see that the tribulation cloud vortex showed no signs of dissipating, but was instead continuing to gestate and gather lightning. This time, the gathered lightning was five-colored, complete with all five elements. I see. The sixth tribulation lightning is a five-elements tribulation lightning, complete with all five elements. Sensing the atmosphere, Lu Qing gained an insight in his heart. At the same time, he also understood that this sixth tribulation lightning was also the final tribulation lightning of his golden core tribulation this time. As long as he endured it, he would have crossed this golden core tribulation and condensed his golden core. Then, come on! As the lightning gathered to its peak, Lu Qing's entire state also rose to its zenith. As if sensing Lu Qing's will, a thunderous explosion resounded, and the lightning from the tribulation cloud vortex descended at this time. Boom! This time the tribulation lightning was entwined in 5 colors, much thicker than the previous ones. Like a pillar of heaven, it struck down from high above and landed on Lu Qing. Instantly, the earth shook, and the mighty momentum directly made the grand mountain peak where Lu Qing stood tremble. The entire mountaintop explosively shattered, with countless rocks flying and tumbling, making the scene appear extremely frightening. Young master! In the leaving fire tripod, Yen screamed again upon seeing this scene. The power of this 6th tribulation lightning was truly terrifying, to the extent that even while residing in the spiritual artifact space, it felt a sense of dread. This involuntarily reminded it of witnessing someone cross the tribulation for a golden core perfection at the Li Hua sect initially. But that was a primordial spirit tribulation, so when did a golden core tribulation become so terrifying? How can there be a path for the person crossing the tribulation to survive? Indeed, it's only this final tribulation lightning left. In the midst of Yan's worry, Lu Qing, who directly faced the 5-colored tribulation lightning, looked extremely miserable at this moment. His entire body melted, flowing down like molten wax. Under the erosion of the 5 elements' law power, the law phenomena he had previously experienced descended again. The sharp aura that cuts everything, the strange plants that suck marrow and bones, the black poisonous water that corrodes everything, the red flames that burn everything, the horrifying gravity that crushes all. The 5 phenomena appeared simultaneously, inflicting devastating torment on Lu Qing's physical body. More importantly, there was another invisible wave that surged into his forehead acupoint, directly striking the divine soul talisman, causing his heart and spirit to be filled with illusions, almost unable to distinguish between reality and fantasy. However, such terrifying strikes still didn't instill any fear in Lu Qing. On the contrary, he suddenly felt a great joy rising in his heart. Because in this torment that seemed to annihilate everything, he finally seized the opportunity to condense his golden core. Break for me! In the forehead acupoint, the mysterious and unfathomable divine soul talisman that had been nurtured in the earth spirit pearl suddenly burst into dazzling light. In just a breath, it shattered the invisible wave that invaded, allowing Lu Qing's heart and spirit to regain clarity. The 5 elements gored in the Dan Tian Qi Sea trembled continuously, emitting a powerful suction force, continuously devouring the tribulation lightning within and outside Lu Qing, along with the power of the law that transformed into phenomena. After refinement inside the gourd, it expelled it again, merging into Lu Qing's spiritual power. With this assistance, the Dan-shaped spiritual power mass in Lu Qing's Dan Tian, containing all his spirit, fractal, and soul, like taking a great tonic. With a sudden shake, it finally underwent transformation, birthing a power from the center far stronger than spiritual power. At the same time that Dan-shaped spiritual power mass ceased to be illusory, truly beginning to form. The mana emerges, the golden core forms. As the magic power golden core was condensed at that moment, Lu Qing's physical body, divine soul, and essence Qi soul, everything began to undergo unimaginable transformations. He finally successfully crossed the tribulation and stepped into the golden core realm. Chapter 625. Formless and faceless, perfect golden core. Forming a golden core? As Lu Qing's mana transformed and the golden core formed, Yen immediately sensed it. It also saw the tribulation cloud vortex in the sky gradually dissipating. It knew at once that Lu Qing had successfully crossed the heavenly tribulation and was beginning to condense the golden core. Felt endless joy. The last strike of the tribulation was truly terrifying. It had thought Lu Qing might not be able to make it through. Unexpectedly, in the blink of an eye, Lu Qing had dissolved the calamity, absorbing all the tribulation thunder, and now was about to make the most crucial step to achieve the golden core. I wonder how powerful the young master will be after achieving the golden core realm this time. This time, Lu Qing faced an unprecedented 5-colored heavenly tribulation, and its might was so terrifying, So Yen eagerly awaited to see how strong Lu Qing, having achieved the golden core through such a tribulation, would become. Time slowly passed amidst Yan's anticipation, and Lu Qing finally completed his transformation. Is this the golden core realm? It seems a bit different from what I imagined. At this moment, all the injuries on Lu Qing's body had completely healed, not even leaving a scar. He felt the immense physical power within him and the five-colored magic power golden core that radiated a mysterious aura. With the slightest movement, the air exploded layer upon layer, as if the space was quaking. Both his physical body and the newly transformed mana were many times stronger than before. He could even feel that now, with just one finger, he could easily defeat his pre-tribulation self. One can imagine how powerful he has become now. But along with the strength came a sense of strangeness. He felt that his current situation was somewhat different from the golden core realm described in the texts. According to the records, once a cultivator reaches the golden core realm, the magic power golden core possesses a hint of immortality, unless the cultivator dies or their realm regresses. Otherwise, it is almost impossible to disappear. Yet his golden core, with a thought, the perfect five-colored golden core in his Dantian Qi began to rapidly dissipate, turning into mana and merging into the Dantian. Immediately, the aura belonging to the golden core realm on his body began to vanish swiftly, as if his realm regressed back to the foundation establishment realm. But strangely, he didn't feel any impact on his cultivation or strength. The mana within could be wielded at will. The power contained in his physical body was still as vast as the ocean. Apart from the golden core disappearing and the unique aura of the golden core realm vanishing. Otherwise, there was no change. With another thought, the mana in his Dantian Qi began to gather, and in the blink of an eye, his five-colored golden core reappeared. The aura belonging to the golden core realm also reemerged on his body. What exactly is going on here? Lu Qing wondered in his heart. Just as he wanted to delve deeper, the dissipating tribulation cloud vortex suddenly emitted a stream of light before it completely disappeared, landing on Lu Qing, entering his forehead acupoint, and merging into his divine soul. This stream of light came without warning, and its speed was incredibly fast. Even with Lu Qing's current realm, he had no time to react. By the time he looked up, there were no traces of the tribulation cloud vortex in the sky. The sky was clear, not a cloud in sight, completely calm. Lu Qing immediately entered his forehead acupoint to sense the stream of light just now. Before long, he opened his eyes full of delight. The stream of light was a piece of information. More precisely, it was a Taoist chapter describing the mysteries of the golden core. From this Taoist chapter, Lu Qing understood his current state. Firstly, the Taoist chapter stated that when cultivators enter the golden core realm, the golden cores they condense have different grades. Divided into low-grade, mid-grade, high-grade, and perfect golden core 4 grades. Among them, the one he cultivated was the perfect golden core. The grade of a cultivator's condensed golden core depends on their foundation and accumulation before the tribulation. The deeper the foundation and accumulation, the higher the grade of the condensed golden core. The smoother the cultivation path after entering the golden core realm. Among them, low, mid, and high-grade golden cores have differences in strength but are not completely separate from each other. A low-grade golden core, if given a fortuitous encounter and washed by rare treasures, has a chance to advance to a mid-grade or even high-grade golden core. But only the perfect golden core is special. According to the Taoist chapter's description, the perfect golden core is unique. In every world, whether a small, middle, or large world, only one perfect golden core can exist at the same time, unless that perfect golden core disappears. Otherwise, no matter how astonishingly gifted the successors are, they cannot cultivate a perfect golden core in that world. Take Lu Qing, for example. He is now the only perfect golden core in this world. Even if someone else has 100-fold higher cultivation talent than him, as long as he remains in this world, they can never cultivate a second perfect golden core, unless he dies or leaves this world. Otherwise, later cultivators can never cultivate another perfect golden core. Since the perfect golden core is so special, it naturally has its extraordinary features. Besides having more powerful abilities than other grades of golden cores, the perfect golden core has a very special ability. Ever-changing, gathering and scattering at will, shapeless and invisible, which is the technique Lu Qing previously used. The perfect golden core can freely gather and scatter, transform, and change its aura at will according to his will. He can even disguise his golden core into any of the 3 low, mid, or high grades. Moreover, this transformation is perfect and solely from the aura. No one can discern it, not even a cultivator far more powerful than him. Gathering and scattering at will, shapeless and invisible. When Lu Qing saw this description, he immediately realized the terrifying nature of this ability. This essentially equates to an additional form-changing divine skill for him, and a perfect, flawless one at that. This will undoubtedly be of great help as he travels the world, or even other worlds, in the future. Young master, the aura you just had. As Lu Qing was delighting in this, Yan's figure appeared beside him, looking puzzled and uncertain. Just now, it suddenly felt that Lu Qing's aura was unpredictable, fluctuating between strong and weak. In just a few breaths, the aura of the Golden Core realm had completely vanished, reverting back to the Foundation establishment stage. This caught it off guard. It's nothing, just conducting some experiments. Lu Qing waved his hand and said plainly. He glanced at the sky, already approaching evening. The Taoist chapter from the Tribulation Vortex contained much information. But now was not the time to comprehend it. He crossed the tribulation alone. His master and others must be very worried. The white-robed person's senior brother's arrival time was also uncertain. So the urgent task was to return to the village to assure safety. As for the Taoist chapter, it could be studied slowly later. After all, having entered the Golden Core realm, even if that white-robed person's senior brother was strong, he was confident in defending against him. It's getting late. Let's go back first. Lu Qing's figure soared into the sky, transforming into a stream of light, flying in the direction of Jili village. After Lu Qing left, the surroundings instantly returned to calmness, as if everything before was merely a dream. Only the mountain, devastated by the tribulation, partially leveled, stood as evidence that an earth-shaking heavenly tribulation had occurred here. Chapter 626. Retreat again, white-winged snake. No wonder Senior Yan was so worried earlier. The difference between the Golden Core realm and the Foundation Establishment realm is indeed like a chasm. High above in the sky, Lu Qing transformed into a stream of light, quickly heading back towards the village. While flying, he also felt the changes following his breakthrough. The most obvious of these is that after stepping into the Golden Core realm, he possessed the ability to fly. After a cultivator achieves the Golden Core, there's no need to utilize magic artifacts. By simply using mana vibrations, one can ascend directly into azure darkness, manifesting the ability to fly. Moreover, this is just the most basic flying ability. If one further practices those specialized escape and flying techniques, the speed can be even faster. Take Lu Qing for example, just flying with mana. His speed is no slower than when he used the Golden Small Boat before. Once he masters various skills at the Golden Core realm, especially the flying skills, his speed will increase explosively. Traveling hundreds of miles in a flash will be easy. In addition to being able to fly, there's also physical body strength, mana power, and the intensity of divine soul power, and so on. In everything, Lu Qing has become much stronger than before the breakthrough. This is a qualitative difference, a true life transformation. The gap between the Foundation Establishment realm and the Golden Core realm is indeed too large. Especially with Lu Qing possessing a perfect Golden Core, the gap is even more exaggerated. The two are fundamentally not on the same level and cannot be compared. As for that white-robed youth, before being counterslashed by him with his Foundation Establishment body, it can only be said that his foundation was too weak. Lu Qing speculated that the other was at most a low-grade Golden Core. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been so easily slain by him. After stepping into the Golden Core realm, even without using the Golden Small Boat, Lu Qing's speed remained fast. Before long, He returned to Jili village and landed in front of the half-mountain small courtyard. King. Since Lu Qing mentioned he was going to cross the tribulation for a breakthrough, the elder doctor was always worried. Especially when Lu Qing formally started the tribulation, the terrifying aura of the heavenly tribulation could be vaguely felt even at Jili village, making the elder doctor restless and unable to focus on cultivation. So he simply stopped cultivating and waited wholeheartedly for Lu Qing's news. Seeing him back now, he finally breathed a sigh of relief. "Master, I'm back." Lu Qing smiled at the sight of his master. "Did you succeed in crossing the tribulation?" The elder doctor couldn't help but ask. "Yes. Luckily, I passed the thunder tribulation and successfully stepped into the golden core realm." Lu Qing nodded. "Good, good." The elder doctor was immediately all smiles. He sensed Lu Qing's aura, vast like an abyss, with a harmonious and perfect essence. This essence he had previously sensed in that white-robed man as well. But Lu Qing's was not as domineering and flamboyant, yet the depth far exceeded it. "Master, regarding my stepping into the golden core realm, please do not spread the word for now. This way we can be in the dark while the enemy is in the open, increasing our odds of winning." "I understand." The elder doctor nodded knowingly. The matter of Lu Qing crossing the tribulation was known only to him, so keeping it secret was quite simple. "Also, Master, I have just broken through and will probably need to go into seclusion for a while to familiarize myself with the golden core realm's power," Lu Qing added. "All right, go into seclusion first. Cultivation is paramount. I will look after things in the village," the elder doctor promptly said. A moment later, Lu Qing returned home once again. This time, he didn't rush into cultivation, but directed his heart and spirit into the leaving fire tripod. "Master!" In the spiritual artifact space, the demon cultivator, upon seeing Lu Qing's figure, joyfully came forward. Just as he was about to salute Lu Qing, he suddenly froze. He sensed the aura emanating from Lu Qing's divine soul and his eyes showed disbelief. "Master, you've reached the golden core realm? Get lost, demon child." Before Lu Qing could answer, a flame fell on the demon cultivator, blasting him away, causing him to tumble and fly to a corner. Immediately after, the figure of Yan appeared beside Lu Qing, casting a look of disdain at the demon cultivator before bowing to Lu Qing and saying, "Young master, having been humiliated like this," a trace of venom flashed in the demon cultivator's eyes but quickly subsided. He knew that in this spiritual artifact space, he had no chance against this crawling artifact spirit. "Once I retrieve my body, one day I will teach you a lesson, making you beg for mercy all over the ground," the demon cultivator thought with immense hatred. But soon, his vision darkened, and when he regained his senses, he found himself trapped in a spatial cage. He immediately understood that this was the artifact spirit's doing, intending to prevent him from eavesdropping on its conversation with the master. This damned crawling artifact spirit. The demon cultivator became even more resentful in his heart. However, soon his mind was attracted to another matter. The master has really reached the golden core realm, and this is all in such a short time? Although the demon cultivator had a divine soul contract with Lu Qing and was subjected to his divine soul slavery, capable of communicating with Lu Qing at any time, the communication was unilateral unless initiated by Lu Qing. Therefore, he could not perceive any of Lu Qing's information beforehand. Thus, he was shocked when he saw that Lu Qing's divine soul aura had become so powerful, greatly surpassing the scope of the Foundation establishment stage. The essence revealed from that divine soul reached an extent that made even his own heart tremble. "Senior, you're still this hostile to demons." Lu Qing couldn't help but smile seeing Yan imprison the demon cultivator in the spatial cage. This demon child harbors no good intentions, always trying to tempt the young master to regain its demon body. "I say, the young master should have eradicated him long ago." Yan snorted coldly, showing no concealment of its disdain towards the demon cultivator. "This demon still has its uses. I'd best keep him for a while." Lu Qing also had no fondness for the demon cultivator, but considering its origins could still be of future value to him, he decided to keep the demon's wisp of divine soul for the time being. Right, Senior Yen? You summoned me? Is there something you need? Indeed, it was Yen who summoned Lu Qing in the leaving fire tripod. That's why he didn't immediately cultivate but entered with his heart and spirit. Yen suddenly fell silent. Young master, have you forgotten something? Forgotten something? Lu Qing was puzzled. Exactly this. Yen waved its hand, and two separate spatial cages appeared before them. In one was the headless corpse of the white-robed youth. In the other was a white-winged snake, constantly roaming and occasionally hitting its head against the surrounding spatial barrier, trying to escape. This little snake has been causing a ruckus in the spatial cage ever since you threw it in, never stopping for a moment. When does the young master intend to subdue it? Yen said with some helplessness. Chapter 627 Divine Soul Enslavement, Subjugation of the Winged Snake. Yan's tone carried a hint of helplessness. Don't be fooled by how this winged snake is currently flailing around like a headless fly, blindly crashing around in the spatial cage. Yet it is still a powerful spiritual beast whose physical strength rivals that of the Golden Core realm, making suppression not so easy and requiring considerable effort from Yen. Previously, Lu Qing had been refining himself on the cusp of a breakthrough. Plus, with an external Golden Core threat, the situation was urgent. So Yen hesitated to bother him over such a small matter. But now, with Lu Qing's breakthrough and achievement of the Golden Core, he finally couldn't resist reminding him. I truly had forgotten about this matter. Upon seeing the five-colored winged snake, Lu Qing was initially startled, then smiled. He really did forget about this creature. Primarily because there had been too many things happening lately, and he was preoccupied with cultivation, having no time to spare for this little thing. Watching the five-colored winged snake still struggling violently in the spatial cage, Lu Qing waved his hand, releasing it from the cage. As the master of the leaving fire tripod, he could naturally manipulate the spiritual artifact space. Suddenly being released and falling outside, the five-colored winged snake's eyes flickered with confusion. Since being confined in that eternally dark small space, it had long despaired. No matter how hard it tried, it couldn't breach that spatial barrier at all. The once proud, powerful physical body was completely useless before that spatial cage. The reason it still struggled was simply due to its inherent pride refusing to let it surrender just like that. So when suddenly released from the spatial cage, the five-colored winged snake was momentarily at a loss. However, in no time, the confusion in the five-colored winged snake's eyes vanished, replaced by intense rage, because it saw, among the two figures in front, the one it could never forget, even in its dreams. It was this person who not only took away the treasure it had guarded for 1,000 years, severing its hope of advancement and transformation, but also locked it in that dark, eternal spatial cage. This enmity was deep as bones, unforgettable for a lifetime. Hiss! With eyes filled with hatred, the five-colored winged snake let out a hiss, rushing towards Lu Qing at great speed. Layers of physical power erupted, intending to crush that archenemy to smithereens with its unbreakable body. Facing the violent outburst of the five-colored winged snake, Lu Qing remained unwavering, uttering just one word calmly. Stop! In an instant, the rapidly advancing body of the five-colored winged snake suddenly froze. Countless powerful spatial forces bound onto it, not only halting its advance but also pinning it firmly in place, unable to move a fraction. Hiss! Despite being suppressed, the five-colored winged snake didn't show any sign of submission, continually thrashing with all its might, trying to break free using its physical power. Its eyes were locked onto Lu Qing, as if wanting to engrave this enemy's visage deep into its soul. Little snake, tell me, do you wish to live or die? Facing the gaze filled with desires to devour him, Lu Qing asked coldly. At the same time, this ray of divine soul clone suddenly shone brightly, rapidly expanding, becoming immensely large, almost supporting the entire spiritual artifact space. Boundless aura emanated from Lu Qing, A grand voice descended as if from the heavens. If you wish to live, open your heart and spirit. Let me imprint the divine soul mark upon you. If you wish to die, I shall annihilate you now, refining your physical body into a puppet for my use. This earth-shattering transformation stunned the five-colored winged snake into silence. It couldn't believe that the enemy who not long ago matched its aura had suddenly become so terrifying. It was tempted to believe it was all an illusion, but the pressure on its heart and spirit told it that everything was real. Little snake, tell me your answer. Do you want to live or die? Lu Qing's voice descended from the high heavens once more. The five-colored winged snake trembled slightly, swallowing nervously. Feeling the pressure like a mountain on its heart and spirit, it wanted to hold its ground. Yet instinct warned that if it truly refused this being, he would indeed annihilate its divine soul without hesitation. Recalling that Lu Qing mentioned refining its body into a puppet after annihilating its divine soul, in an instant, the five-colored winged snake lost its will to resist. Since even in death, its body couldn't escape enslavement, living seemed a better option. Hiss! Under Lu Qing's watchful gaze, the five-colored winged snake let out a low, aggrieved hiss, lowering its head. Simultaneously, it emitted a submissive divine soul fluctuation. This caught Lu Qing by surprise. He had thought he would need to spend more effort intimidating this winged snake. Unexpectedly, it submitted so quickly. It seemed this winged snake, born in a secret realm, was simpler than he anticipated. Since you've chosen to submit, open your heart and spirit, Lu Qing said flatly. Upon hearing this, the five-colored winged snake didn't hesitate and immediately opened its heart and spirit. Without hesitation, a divine soul mark fell from above, imprinting itself at the deepest part of the winged snake's divine soul. With the divine soul mark imprinted, the five-colored winged snake was officially enslaved by him. From this moment, the winged snake's life and death were at his command, and he could annihilate its divine soul at a thought. After subjugating the five-colored winged snake, Lu Qing's divine soul clone reverted to its original form, retracting all its mighty pressure. Congratulations, young master, on successfully subduing a powerful spiritual beast. Yen, who had stepped back earlier, approached at this moment. Although it too was somewhat shaken, even it struggled to endure the divine soul pressure Lu Qing displayed just now. After successfully crossing the tribulation and achieving the golden core, young master has become increasingly enigmatic. Yen muttered in its heart. Before crossing the tribulation, Lu Qing already frequently astounded it. Now, having stepped into the golden core realm, he was even more unfathomable. Hiss! Seeing Lu Qing return to his original form, the five-colored winged snake slithered its body, lightly nudging his palm in a sycophantic manner. The hatred it displayed earlier was nowhere to be seen in its eyes now. Its abrupt change of attitude was akin to a face-changing performance. This showcased the terrifying nature of divine soul enslavement. Once the enslavement mark was planted, not only were life and death controlled, but even the heart and spirit twisted to feel fondness for the master, rendering total obedience. This was why Lu Qing was always wary of demon cultivators. Because demon cultivators had too many hidden agendas, even though they appeared consistently loyal to him. Lu Qing suspected that the creature hadn't completely lost its nature. Seeing the five-colored winged snake trying to ingratiate itself, Lu Qing patted its head. Feeling the elemental power within it, a thought struck his mind. From now on, your name shall be Five Elements. Chapter 628 Space Ring. 5 Elements. I'll find you a few suitable cultivation techniques from the demon clan for you to cultivate in the future when the opportunity arises. Lu Qing gently patted the head of the winged snake as he spoke. The reason for naming the winged snake 5 Elements was naturally due to its uniqueness. The winged snake had guarded the 5 Elements treasure lotus for many years, living in that spiritual pool all along. Its physical body, nurtured by the aura of the 5 Elements, also possessed the attributes of the 5 Elements and was very powerful, laying the foundation for a remarkable potential as a spiritual body with elements, astonishing in its promise. Unfortunately, according to the 5 elements, it had stayed in the secret realm since birth and had never interacted with other living creatures. Thus, it muddled through training entirely based on instinct. This is why it had the strength of a golden core-level physical body but didn't know how to use it artfully, resorting to brute force, and was easily trapped by Lu Qing in the leaving fire tripod. If it had suitable cultivation techniques, Lu Qing believed that the future achievements of the 5 elements would likely not be lower than those of little Li. Hiss! Upon hearing Lu Qing's words, the 5-colored winged snake nuzzled against his hand, simultaneously transmitting a thought. You want the lotus seeds of the 5 elements treasure lotus? Lu Qing was momentarily stunned before laughing. It's not impossible. If you perform well in the future, I might consider it. Upon hearing this, the 5-colored winged snake nuzzled Lu Qing's hand even more eagerly, appearing just like a sycophant. Lu Qing chuckled. When he first encountered the winged snake, the information emerging from it suggested that the creature had been guarding the 5 elements treasure lotus all along for its lotus seeds. The lotus seeds of the 5 elements treasure lotus seemed to be the key to its transformation. Now that the winged snake had become his enslaved spiritual beast, if it could transform into something more powerful, it would be a great aid to him. In this case, Lu Qing wouldn't be stingy about those lotus seeds. After subduing the winged snake, Lu Qing ordered it to play by itself, then turned his attention to the corpse of the young man in the white robe. Since they had come in, he might as well deal with the body too. Lu Qing extracted the young man's belongings from his body before conjuring a flame and beginning to burn the corpse directly. The remains of a golden core realm cultivator are actually considered a treasure of sorts. But as Lu Qing didn't practice the path of corpse refining, he wasn't interested in fiddling with bodies, so he simply burned it. The flame Lu Qing conjured was the spiritual fire of the leaving fire tripod, potent in power. Even the body of a golden core realm expert couldn't withstand it, and shortly it was completely incinerated, leaving not even bones, only several light clusters remaining in place. These were the magical treasures refined and absorbed by the young man in the white robe. Being chosen by a golden core realm expert, they weren't ordinary magical treasures. Lu Qing sensed them and found that all of these treasures were at the treasure level. The one with the most radiant brilliance and the greatest power was a fist-sized white bead, upon which mysterious runes appeared from time to time. Lu Qing activated his superpower, gazing at the white bead. Soon, several lines of information emerged. All-method pearl. Water element supreme treasure. Crafted mainly from the inner core of the golden core spiritual beast, deep sea cloud whale. Contains a 10,000 techniques secret pattern, vastly enhancing magic cultivation, potentially increasing the potency of golden core realm spells several times over. Infused with the power of the water element law, possessing a strong healing effect. It's actually a supreme treasure. After reading the lines of information about the white bead, Lu Qing understood. This treasure bead is a supreme treasure of the water element, greatly augmenting the mana of a cultivator. That young man in the white robe's mana palm was so formidable, proficient in both offense and defense with exquisite control, surely benefiting from this magical treasure. It's quite suitable for my master, Lu Qing murmured to himself. Though his master excelled at the sword Dao, what he had comprehended was the water and fire Dao. This all-method pearl could indeed find a worthy place in his hands. Of course, Little Yan was also well-suited for this treasure bead. Little Yan's inherent gift was the ice skin jade bone, as ice and water stem from the same origin. So this all-method pearl was also an extremely fitting magical treasure for her. However, Little Yan's cultivation was still shallow, and the all-method pearl, being a supreme treasure, possessed extraordinary power. Even if it were given to her, she wouldn't be able to refine it anytime soon. After pondering for a bit, Lu Qing decided to keep the all-method pearl first and decide who needed it more later on. As for himself, he carried 2 spiritual artifacts and a life-bound magical treasure that, while not yet a spiritual artifact, held much greater potential than ordinary spiritual artifacts. With magical treasures, quality outweighs quantity, and the function of this all-method pearl somewhat overlapped with the 5 elements gourd, though the power was far less than the 5 elements gourd. It indeed was unnecessary for him. He then took a look at the other light clusters, finding they were all decent magical treasures, and collected them all. Even if he didn't need them, he could always provide them for acquaintances to use in the future. After collecting the magical treasures, Lu Qing turned his attention to the other items. These were the things he had taken from the young man in the white robe prior to incinerating him. Ignoring the miscellaneous items of little use, Lu Qing primarily focused on a green jade thumb ring engraved with mysterious secret patterns. From this green jade thumb ring, he sensed an unusual fluctuation. Activating his superpower, the information about the green jade thumb ring quickly floated into view. Space ring, treasure level space ring. Contains space, capable of storing items. Ring engraved with defensive arrays. Ownerless item, can be claimed. As expected, it's a storage magical treasure, isn't it? After reading the information that emerged from the green jade thumb ring, Lu Qing was delighted. He had been puzzled as to why, as a Golden Core realm expert, the young man in the white robe would have so few items. If it were a space treasure, then everything would make sense. With a slight mental tug, Lu Qing sent a wisp of divine soul power into the green jade thumb ring. Due to the white-robed young man's death, the storage magical treasure had become ownerless. Thus, he very easily imprinted his divine soul mark within the restriction, claiming it for himself. Having successfully refined the thumb ring, Lu Qing sensed its contents, a look of surprise quickly spreading across his face. Indeed, no wonder it came from one at the Golden Core realm of the Great World. Truly wealthy. Swish! With a flicker of thought, Lu Qing manifested the contents of the space ring, suspending them in the spiritual artifact space of the Leaving Fire tripod. Is this ring that Golden Core realm's storage magical treasure? Yen responded as it beheld the large collection of items Lu Qing had drawn out. Then, its attention was drawn to the heap of items. Inside, there were all sorts of things, ores, spiritual medicine, Dan bottles, all exuding an extraordinary aura, indicating their high quality. Particularly, a small pile of crystalline, translucent objects emitting a dense aura of spiritual charm, resembling jade blocks, caused Yen to widen his eyes. Spirit stones, that Golden Core realm actually accumulated so many spirit stones? Boom! While Lu Qing and Yen were tallying their gains within the spiritual artifact space. In the central state, atop a certain famous mountain range, a powerful wave suddenly erupted, dispersing the hovering clouds within a radius of tens of miles. An indifferent voice echoed, "Junior brother, wait for me. I'll go avenge you now." Chapter 629. Spirit Stone, Inheritance Jade Scroll, Sword Mark 1 Line Sky. Is this a spirit stone? Lu Qing's heart and spirit have now retreated from the Leaving Fire tripod. At this moment, he was holding a crystal-clear object like jade in his hand, scrutinizing it. It was precisely the spirit stone that even Yen was astounded by. He had finished inventorying the items within the space ring. It must be said, the wealth of a Golden Core realm cultivator is quite substantial. Various elixirs, spirit grass, and spiritual medicine inside, all of considerable grade. Any one of them, if made known, would be treasures that cultivators across the world would fight over. Yet now all of them belong to Lu Qing. With these resources, at least Lu Qing could sustain his cultivation for some time. Among everything, that small pile of spirit stones was what Yen valued the most. According to Yen, no matter how good an elixir is, it contains elixir poison and should not be consumed excessively. But spirit stones are different. The spiritual charm essences they contain are very gentle and can be absorbed directly by cultivators. They are one of the best treasures for consolidating one's foundation and increasing cultivation. They also have significant uses in areas such as array formation and artifact refining. Unfortunately, spirit stones are very rare. They generally only form in places with a high concentration of spiritual charm but also extreme pressure. And these places are mostly deep underground or beneath the deep sea, making them extremely hard to mine. Even during the peak of the last cultivation era, the output of spirit stones was not high and was mostly used by major sects as strategic resources. Using spirit stones for cultivation was seen as an incredibly extravagant act. Usually, only the true disciples of major sects might occasionally be granted one or two for cultivation purposes. This is why Yen was so astonished upon seeing that small pile of spirit stones. One should know that even the spirit stones stored in the treasure vault of the Lihua sect were only slightly more than this. However, the spiritual charm contained within this spirit stone is indeed rich. Lu Qing sensed the spiritual charm fluctuations within the spirit stone in his hand, smiling slightly. If it was him before his breakthrough, just this one spirit stone could probably sustain his cultivation for a considerable time. And this was just a low-grade spirit stone. According to the information he just probed with his superpower, spirit stones are also divided into 4 grades: low grade, middle grade, high grade, and supreme grade. With each increase in grade, the spiritual charm essence within becomes more than 10 times purer. Of course, their value also increases more than tenfold. Most of the spirit stones left by the young man in the white robe are low grade and middle grade, primarily low grade. There wasn't a single high grade spirit stone, let alone a supreme grade one. It can be imagined that high-grade spirit stones and above, even in the great world, are considered rare to a golden core realm cultivator. And this as well. Lu Qing put away the spirit stone in his hand. Then a jade scroll appeared in his hand. This jade scroll was also found in the space ring left by the young man in the white robe. There are several similar jade scrolls. The runes on the jade scroll were quite familiar to Lu Qing. Although slightly different from what he knew, he still recognized them as runes specifically used to create inheritance jade scrolls. Lu Qing activated his superpower and quietly looked at the jade scroll. Soon, he felt a faint purple glow emanating from the jade scroll. Simultaneously, several strips of information floated out. Inheritance jade scroll. A type of jade scroll that can record information and pass it on. Those who cultivate divine soul power can record information on certain special jade scrolls, leaving inheritances. It is challenging for those who have not cultivated divine soul power to obtain the information on the jade scroll. Discovery of cultivation technique inheritance. Would you like to download a simulation? Download. Upon seeing the prompt in the strips, Lu Qing did not hesitate and chose to download immediately. He was quite curious about the cultivation techniques of the cultivators like the young man in the white robe from another world. If the jade scroll contained information about other worlds, that would be even better. As for why not directly use his heart and spirit to read the information within the jade scroll, it was naturally to guard against any restrictions left within the jade scroll. From what Yen had told him, many cultivation sects in the past placed special restrictions on inheritance jade scrolls to prevent their techniques from being learned by outsiders. These restrictions would directly destroy the jade scroll if someone externally tried to read its information. He did not know if the jade scroll left by the young man in the white robe had such restrictions. But to be safe, it was better not to take this risk. After all, he had a superpower which made reading it even more convenient. Starting download, current progress 1%, 2%, 3%, 98%, 99%, 100%. Download complete. Would you like to run a simulation? Lu Qing immediately chose yes. Simulating current progress 1%, 2%, 3%, 98%, 99%, 100%. Simulation complete. Would you like to begin learning? Lu Qing chose yes once more. In the next moment, a wealth of insight and information surged forth in the depths of his mind. Lu Qing closed his eyes and began to comprehend the information transmitted by his superpower. While Lu Qing was comprehending the cultivation techniques from the inheritance jade scroll, in the central state, a flash of light was rapidly streaking across the sky. When it reached the edge of central state, it suddenly stopped. Holding a person in its grasp, it looked down with a bit of surprise at the crack that spanned the entire mountain range below. At a glance, it could tell that the crack was cleaved open by some powerful being using great magic power. As for the realm of that being, it could not be guessed. At the very least, it was far beyond its capability, even though it had already reached the fourth transition of the Golden Core realm. Staring intently at that enormous crack for a moment, taking in the ancient aura it exuded and confirming that the crack had been there for countless tens of thousands of years, the man in the white robe finally calmed himself. He turned his gaze to the person he was holding. "Is this the Azure Dragon Pass you mentioned?" The person caught by the man in the gray robe was trembling, already shaken by the void beneath his feet. Even though he possessed the cultivation of innate great success, falling from such a height would inevitably result in becoming a puddle of flesh with no other outcome. Nonetheless, since the man in the gray robe had spoken, he dared not remain silent. Forcing himself to suppress his inner fear, he glanced down twice before raising his head and trembling as he replied, "Reporting to Your Excellency, this place is indeed the Azure Dragon Pass. The crack below is called One Line of Sky, and that city is Azure Dragon Pass. As for Tsang State, where you wish to go, you can reach it by heading east after leaving Azure Dragon Pass." After responding, the person recalled the scene he had just seen and suddenly felt a wave of bewilderment. How, when viewed from such a height, did Azure Dragon City below seem so much like a footprint of some creature? And the one line of sky crack spanning Azure Dragon Mountain, why did it look so much like a sword mark? East, is it? The man in the gray robe gazed directly at the horizon ahead, and the next moment, transformed back into a streak of light, he flew towards the east. Chapter 630, Taoist Chapter, Secrets of the Golden Core. The gray-robed man, guided by the innate realm, flew through the sky. Suddenly, he sensed something and stopped. "Why have we stopped here, Your Excellency? This is Jizhou, and Tsang State is still ahead," the innate realm martial artist asked in confusion. Over time, his fear of heights had lessened considerably, and he spoke more fluently. "No need. I already know the place. You can go down," the gray-robed man said indifferently. With that, he pushed the innate realm martial artist in his hand downwards. "Ah! Spare me, Your Excellency." The innate realm martial artist was suddenly terrified, feeling the irresistible descent of his body, his fear reaching the extreme, flailing his arms and legs, screaming frantically. Just when he thought he was going to be smashed to death, suddenly, a force descended upon him, neutralizing most of his downward momentum. In the end, he merely fell and bruised his face, not ending up as a bloody pulp. "Thank you, Your Excellency, for sparing my life. Thank you, Your Excellency, for sparing my life." The innate realm martial artist, having narrowly escaped death, didn't care about his injuries and kept kowtowing in gratitude in place. But when he looked up again later, there was no sign of the gray-robed man in the sky. The secret realm fluctuations, are they over there? After throwing the innate realm martial artist to the ground, the gray-robed man departed. He gazed in a certain direction, sensing the faint waves of a secret realm's gate. That day, his junior brother knew of a newly opened secret realm and ventured to explore and seize it, ultimately meeting his end there. Thus, his death was definitely related to that secret realm. The speed of the gray-robed man's escape light was extremely fast. Before long, he arrived above a valley, looking down at the black swirling entrance below. "Is it here? I can sense the aura of my junior brother who once came here. This Golden Core realm is indeed vast and profound, far beyond my imagination." In the Lu family, Lu Qing opened his eyes, marveling. At this moment, the jade scroll in his hand had already disappeared. At this moment, he not only downloaded, simulated, and comprehensively read and pondered over a few of the jade scrolls left by the white-robed youth. He even roughly comprehended the Taoist chapter bestowed before the heavenly tribulation vortex dissipated. Inside the jade scrolls left by the white-robed youth, several cultivation techniques and some spell secret techniques were recorded. Unfortunately, those techniques were all water element methods, and the highest realm could only be cultivated to Golden Core perfection. There was nothing for a higher realm. Lu Qing guessed this should be a sect limitation from the white-robed youth sect. At each stage, Disciples could only exchange for cultivation technique mantras of the corresponding realm to prevent any accidents where the entire technique gets leaked. And it was through this comprehension that Lu Qing realized that the realm of Golden Core is far more mysterious and immense than he had imagined. Pills are divided into 4 grades. Fundamentally speaking, the magic power Golden Core of the Golden Core realm is divided into 4 grades: low, middle, high, and perfect grade. From a realm perspective, the Golden Core realm is divided into 9 levels, known as the 9 transformations of the Golden Core. Each time you make a breakthrough, the magic power Golden Core undergoes a metamorphosis with a massive increase in magic power, and the Golden Core's might grows significantly stronger. One could say that each of the 9 transformations of the Golden Core is akin to climbing the heavenly ladder. It requires continuously refining and purifying one's magic power to the limit, then breaking through the limit to achieve a qualitative change to make a breakthrough. Only those with immense determination and willpower can achieve it. Moreover, according to the cultivation methods described in the Jade Scrolls left by the white-robed youth, the Golden Core's grade is closely related to the realm that the Golden Core realm can reach. Generally speaking, a low-grade Golden Core can only be cultivated up to the 3rd transformation realm. A mid-grade Golden Core can be cultivated to the 6th transformation realm. Only a top-grade Golden Core can be cultivated beyond the 7th transformation. Therefore, Golden Core realm experts, upon reaching a bottleneck in their cultivation, usually try every means possible to refine their Golden Core and increase its grade. Thus, they have the opportunity to continue making breakthroughs. According to the cultivation methods left by the white-robed youth, once a cultivator reaches the 7th transformation, the god nurtured within the Golden Core is already strong enough to qualify for a breakthrough to the primordial spirit realm. But the probability of failing the breakthrough to the primordial spirit realm from the 7th transformation is high. Even if one successfully crosses the tribulation by luck and achieves primordial spirit, its potential is limited, and they cannot advance far within the primordial spirit realm. Very likely, before too long, they will fall under the tribulation of the primordial spirit. Only reaching the 8th or 9th transformation realm greatly increases the likelihood of successfully breaking through to the primordial spirit realm. After achieving primordial spirit, the foundation is solid, allowing one to travel far within the primordial spirit realm. Enduring many tribulations yet still hard to annihilate, perpetually existing. Various insights arose in Lu Qing's heart. The white-robed youth indeed came from a vast world. The cultivation methods he practiced were much more exquisite than those left behind by the Lihua sect. The exposition on the Golden Core realm and the breakdown of realms were much more detailed and accurate than the methods of this world. It's notable that, whether it's the core heritage of the Lihua sect or the 5 elements body refining technique he practiced, they simply divide the Golden Core realm into small success, great success, and perfection. There was no comprehensive system like the 9 transformations of the Golden Core. However, the cultivation methods from the white-robed youth's world treat the 9th transformation of the Golden Core as the extreme limit of the Golden Core realm. In fact, the 9 transformations of the Golden Core are not the ultimate limit of the Golden Core realm. The true extreme limit of the Golden Core realm should be the 12th transformation. A gleam appeared in Lu Qing's eyes as he murmured to himself. He didn't say this out of imagination but based on the Taoist chapter transmitted by the Heavenly Tribulation Vortex. Before the Heavenly Tribulation Vortex dissipated, it transmitted a Taoist chapter to Lu Qing, specifically expounding on the Golden Core realm. Inside, there were no explicit cultivation techniques, only a profound Taoist scripture expounding upon the Golden Core realm. Yet, this Taoist scripture clearly articulated that the 12th transformation of the Golden Core is the true great perfection realm of the Golden Core realm. However, to break through the limits and achieve beyond the 9th transformation, only cultivators who have condensed a perfect Golden Core have the possibility. Cores of other grades, even top-grade Golden Cores, cannot break the limit of 9. So, from this perspective, the cultivation methods left by the white-robed youth that consider the 9th transformation of the Golden Core as the perfect realm are not inaccurate. After all, a perfect Golden Core is too special, and in one era only one can appear in a world. Many cultivation worlds probably don't even know of the existence of a perfect Golden Core. Lu Qing, too, was fortunate to encounter numerous opportunities, supplemented by the help of his superpowers. Repeatedly breaking limits, mastering the 5 elements, flawlessly honing the Foundation Establishment realm, and seizing the perfect opportunity to condense this perfect golden core. Had he missed any of those opportunities, he likely wouldn't have been so fortunate. However, with this situation, my future cultivation is bound to be much more challenging. Chapter 631 Cultivation Technique Deduction Karma Red Line. Lu Qing's current primary cultivation technique, the 5 Elements Body Refining Technique, is a body cultivation method. The highest realm one can cultivate to is the Golden Core Perfection realm. In fact, after understanding the cultivation technique left by the youth in a white robe, Lu Qing estimated that according to the classification of that youth's world, it hadn't even reached the realm of the 9th transition of the Golden Core. At most, it had only achieved the 7th transition realm. This is also why, in the ancient immortal cultivation era, the Golden Core realm cultivator who created the 5 Elements Body Refining Technique ultimately couldn't achieve the primordial spirit, because he did not evolve this technique to a truly perfected state. Lu Qing even suspected that the so-called dissolution of that Golden Core realm cultivator back then was actually because he attempted a breakthrough without a perfected technique, leading to his failure in breaking through to the primordial spirit realm and subsequent demise. Of course, this is just his speculation. Those events happened tens of thousands of years ago, and the truth is long beyond probing. But it is a fact that the 5 Elements Body Refining Technique is not perfect. Moreover, with a fortunate opportunity, Lu Qing has now formed a perfect golden core. To continue cultivating this technique step by step is no longer very appropriate for him. Indeed, even a pure body cultivation technique has become unsuitable for him. The perfect golden core, formless and shapeless, ever-changing, coalesces and disperses at will. After forming the golden core, all of Lu Qing's essence Qi-Soul has been integrated. Mana and the power of the physical body can convert freely without any hindrance. Whether by body cultivation means or magic cultivation means, he can wield them freely, deploying them at will. At present, he is both a body cultivator and a magic cultivator. For him, the boundary between magic cultivation and body cultivation no longer exists. Or rather, he is the most perfect dual cultivation of magic and body. Therefore, pure magic cultivation techniques and body cultivation techniques are no longer able to meet his cultivation requirements. However, Lu Qing is not troubled. If there's no suitable cultivation technique, I'll just create one that belongs solely to me. There was a bright gleam in Lu Qing's eyes. He bore the legacy of the Li Hua sect and had acquired several otherworld cultivation techniques from the youth in a white robe. The most important thing was that he also had a Taoist chapter bestowed by the Heavenly Tribulation Vortex. Although that Taoist chapter lacked specific cultivation methods, every word was a gem, elucidating the mysteries of the Golden Core realm. With it as the foundation, supplemented by the various cultivation methods he mastered, and aided by his superpower, it was not impossible for him to create a cultivation method most suitable to himself. And so, said and done, Lu Qing immediately activated the cultivation mode of his superpower. This time, he did not engage in cultivation but used his superpower to elevate a vast amount of cultivation technique comprehensions from his mind, allowing them to combine and collide, beginning to try to deduce the most suitable cultivation method that belonged solely to himself. This secret realm, does it actually encompass all 5 elements? Deep in the 10,000 great mountains, within the secret realm, the gray-robed man felt a burst of surprise just as he entered. The 5-element spiritual energy was so orderly and mysteriously combined, attesting to the extraordinary nature of this secret realm. But soon, he put this aside and began to sense carefully. He could feel that his junior brother's presence hadn't fully dissipated, indicating that not long ago, he indeed entered this secret realm and cast major spells, leaving a rather dense presence. Did he cause a massacre here? Or did he engage in battle with that mysterious killer? The gray-robed man speculated based on his junior brother's character. But quickly, upon arriving at a certain mark, seeing the 2 lumps of ravaged flesh in the massive handprint on the ground, he fell silent. He immediately realized that his junior brother had indeed instigated a massacre within this secret realm. The gray-robed man was silent for a moment and then continued following the traces, moving forward. Along the way, he saw many marks that were obvious traces of his junior brother's use of spells. And at each site, someone had died on the spot, in a gruesome manner. This made the expression of the gray-robed man even more somber and cold. Before long, the gray-robed man arrived at a high mountain, looking at the place in front of him, a location where spiritual charm converged, that had been entirely excavated and devastated beyond recognition, and remained silent. He could tell that the state of this place was likely not caused by his junior brother. Given his junior brother's personality, he would have long claimed this secret realm as his own, and would not commit such a scene-ruining act of killing the goose that lays the golden eggs. So it was likely that someone had arrived first, harvesting and excavating all the treasures here. The gray-robed man silently calculated in his heart. Quickly, a scene appeared in his mind. His junior brother, filled with joy, came to this place, only to find the treasures had already been taken. Furious, he began capturing people within the secret realm to interrogate them and subsequently started massacring his way out of the secret realm, seeking the person who had taken the treasures. Was it that person who took the treasures early that killed my junior brother? The gray-robed man whispered. He dared not be certain but knew that his junior brother did not perish here. Because within the secret realm, there were no large-scale battle traces, nor the aura of his junior brother's death. Unfortunately, perhaps due to his junior brother's massacre, there was no longer anyone left in the secret realm who dared to stay. Thus he could not find anyone to interrogate. Unable to obtain more information, the gray-robed man didn't hesitate, transforming once again into a streak of light, flying towards the entrance of the secret realm. Very soon, he reached the black vortex, darted into it, and exited the secret realm. Outside the secret realm, the gray-robed man produced an octagonal-shaped magical treasure and spewed a mouthful of primordial chi onto it. He also placed a shattered jade token on it. Then, with his heart and spirit as he activated it, the octagonal-shaped magical treasure began to spin quickly. Soon it stopped, pointing towards a certain direction. A layer of clear light flickered in the gray-robed man's eyes, and suddenly, in the void, a thin line of smoke appeared in his vision, twisting and extending continuously forward. Did my junior brother head towards that direction after leaving the secret realm? The gray-robed man's eyes retained the clear light, following the deduced karma red line, flying all the way. But after following the karma red line for a while, the gray-robed man discovered that the path his junior brother took after leaving the secret realm was highly irregular. It was as if he were a headless fly, wildly zigzagging in all directions. He guessed this was likely his junior brother's attempt to search for the one who took the treasures, resulting in such chaotic searching. The gray-robed man endured patiently, flying along the chaotic karma red line. Along the way, he also sensed that beneath the dense forest, there were living creatures hiding. But even the strongest aura did not surpass the innate realm, so he ignored them, just following the karma red line continuously. He had a feeling that, perhaps soon, he would find the place of his junior brother's demise. Finally, there are some clues. Indeed, it's correct to deduce the cultivation technique using this Taoist chapter as the foundation. In the Lu family, after a round of deduction, a smile appeared on Lu Qing's face. The Taoist chapter bestowed by the heavenly tribulation vortex was indeed exceedingly mysterious. With the aid of the superpower, in just a short while, he already had some clues for his own cultivation technique. Just as Lu Qing wanted to press on and continue deducing, suddenly, he frowned. At the same time, the gray-robed man in the sky outside Jili village also saw the small village below, shrouded in an array. Chapter 632, 1000 Yuan Great World. Confrontation. The junior brother once cast the 10,000 skill palm here and annihilated several innate realm cultivators. The gray-robed man followed the karma red line, emerging from the depths of the 10,000 great mountains, coming to a halt on a slope at the edge. Seeing the scene deduced by the 8 trigrams magical treasure, He knew the junior brother had used spells here. He watched with an unwavering expression as the faces of those innate realm individuals showed fear and despair before they were crushed to death. The gray-robed man's face showed no ripples, as he had seen many similar scenes along the way. He waved his hand to dispel the scene deduced by the 8 trigrams magical treasure, intending to continue tracking along the Karma red line. Suddenly, he sensed something amiss and turned his head to look down, only to be taken aback. That village! With his level of cultivation, the gray-robed man saw at a glance that the village below was surrounded by an array. Such a remote and barren place, yet there was a village protected by an array. This made the gray-robed man suddenly feel a hint of unease, just as he was about to use methods to see through the depths of this village. In the next moment, his pupils contracted involuntarily. He saw a streak of light suddenly fly out from the village, arriving before him in the blink of an eye. The light dispersed, revealing a youth standing in the air dozens of feet in front of him, looking at him with an indifferent expression. Golden Core Realm. The gray-robed man was shocked, alarm bells ringing in his mind, suddenly realizing. He fixed his gaze on Lu Qing. "Are you the one who killed my junior brother? Are you referring to the young man in the white robe?" Lu Qing stood with his hands behind his back in the air, calmly saying, "Yes, I did kill him." The gray-robed man's gaze suddenly chilled. A fierce killing intent emerged from him, spreading around. Suddenly, gale-force winds arose in the sky. The powerful pressure dissipated the clouds within a 10-mile radius. A golden core's anger changes the wind and clouds. At a golden core realm, the magic power golden core merges with the power of laws, already capable of influencing the weather to some extent. Such a commotion naturally could not be hidden from the elder doctor and Lin Jirue in the village. Everyone rushed out of their houses, and upon seeing Lu Qing and the gray-robed man in the sky, they were all greatly shocked. "It's the brother of the man in the white robe." Lin Jirue recognized on the first look the origin of the gray-robed man, immediately shocked in his heart and spirit. "Is it really the brother of that man in the white robe from a few days ago?" Wei Shanhai and the others were even more alarmed upon hearing. Looking up at the sky, feeling the terrifying pressure emanating from the gray-robed man, making them feel suffocated. They had anticipated that the white-robed man's companions would come one day, but when that day truly arrived, they realized that their previous mental preparation was far from sufficient. The aura emanating from this gray-robed man was even more terrifying than his junior brother. If not protected by the array, they probably wouldn't even be able to face such momentum directly. Can young Master Lu block such a terrifying enemy? Everyone felt completely uncertain in their hearts. Only the elder doctor was much more composed than the others, because he knew Lu Qing had already stepped into the Golden Core realm, greatly enhancing his strength. A powerful force surged within the elder doctor, heart and spirit connecting to the array eye, quietly activating the village's protective array to its maximum power. "So, the treasure in the secret realm was also taken by you?" The gray-robed man questioned as he eyed Lu Qing, growing increasingly vigilant inside, because he found himself unable to discern the depth of the youth before him. The other party, despite emanating a faint golden core realm pressure, was beyond his true understanding. Such a situation generally only had two possibilities. One was that Lu Qing's realm far surpassed his own. The other possibility was that Lu Qing harbored an exotic treasure, capable of blocking others' perception, obscuring his real cultivation. No matter which possibility it was, neither was good news for the gray-robed man. Moreover, since the junior brother likely fell at the hands of this person, it made him feel a bit apprehensive. As for Lu Qing's appearance, it did not surprise him. At their level of cultivation, altering one's appearance and preserving youth were overly easy. In his world, there were even primordial spirit great powers who preferred to show themselves with a child's visage. Lu Qing did not respond to the gray-robed man's words, nor did he mind the presented killing intent. He merely looked at him quietly before information started appearing in his view. Wu Qianfeng, True disciple of Heavenly Heart Sect in 1000 Yuan Great World. Cultivation. Mid-grade Golden Core. Golden Core 4th Transition. 1000 Yuan Great World located in the northern border of the Great Origin Immortal Domain, one of the top worlds in the Great Origin Immortal Domain. Possesses exotic treasure, exceptional escape capabilities. Harbors deep hatred for you due to killing his junior brother. Seeing the information appearing on the other person, Lu Qing understood. This person indeed hailed from the same sect as the young man in the white robe. When he had used his superpower to investigate the white-robed young man's information, it also showed the same Heavenly Heart Sect of the 1000 Yuan Great World. However, 1000 Yuan Great World. Lu Qing remembered that the demon cultivator Divine Soul, trapped in the Leaving Fire tripod, also came from a great world known as Heavenly Origin in his past life. Now another 1000 Yuan Great World appears, along with the Great Origin Immortal Domain. Indeed, the world outside was far broader than he had imagined. Boy, how dare you be so impudent? The gray-robed man saw Lu Qing ignoring his words. Despite his apprehension, he couldn't help but feel a surge of anger. Though he wasn't as extreme as his junior brother, viewing the natives of this world as pigs and dogs, he still didn't hold them in high regard. This native Golden Core dared to ignore his words like this. How could the gray-robed man not be enraged? At the same time, he felt a strange sense of unease. There seemed to be something unusual about those eyes. Simply being watched by them gave him a sense of being entirely seen through. The intense apprehension made him shout in anger. Indeed, the treasure in the secret realm was taken by me. Lu Qing said lightly, "You need not test me further. I have been waiting for you. Since you have come, let us resolve all our grievances today." Lu Qing remembered the few elderly villagers who had passed away. A trace of evil qi appeared in his eyes. Extending his arm and spreading his fingers, he surged his heart and spirit, leveraging heaven and earth laws. The heaven and earth laws oscillated, spiritual energy roiled. In the next moment, a scene that stunned everyone appeared. A huge mana palm radiating glaze-like brilliance coalesced in front of Lu Qing. Then, with unstoppable force, it struck the gray-robed man. 10,000 skill palm? The gray-robed man's entire body shook, eyes showing shock beyond belief. Chapter 633 Complete Overpowering. A saber technique that cuts through the heaven and earth rules. The gray-robed man saw the Taoist skill displayed by Lu Qing and couldn't help but feel a shock in his heart and spirit. Because that magic giant palm he was all too familiar with. It was precisely the signature skill his junior brother took pride in and cultivated to its utmost depth, the 10,000 skill palm. His junior brother had painstakingly practiced for 100 years before mastering the 10,000 skill palm, yet suddenly it was being used by an unfamiliar Golden Core realm individual. How could the gray-robed man not be astounded? However, despite his inner shock, the situation left no room for the gray-robed man to think further. The 10,000 skill palm used by Lu Qing was extremely fast, and in the blink of an eye it was already before the gray-robed man. The powerful oppressive force bore down on him, causing him to feel waves of suffocation and making movement difficult. How could it be so strong? Feeling the might of the 10,000 skill palm, the gray-robed man's heart was further astonished. This one palm by Lu Qing was even more formidable than the one performed by his junior brother. It made him, who had just recently had a breakthrough, feel an overwhelming sense of inadequacy. His intuition told him that this palm could not be faced with brute force. As the thought formed, the gray-robed young man could no longer care about anything else. A wave of silver light appeared on his body, instantly dispelling the oppressive force on him. Immediately, he moved like a swimming fish, becoming very slippery, and at the last possible moment, dodged out, leaving Lu Qing's 10,000 skill palm to grasp only air. Lu Qing raised an eyebrow. He felt that the movement technique of the gray-robed man was rather mysterious. As he moved, it subtly tugged at the surrounding power of laws. More importantly, that layer of silver light on him was also quite peculiar. The oppressive force of the 10,000 skill palm, when applied to it, had a slippery feeling. It was precisely because of this that the opponent was able to escape so easily. Sure enough, spells hastily comprehended in the moment are not very effective. Though a bit surprised, Lu Qing was not disappointed and casually waved away the 10,000 skill palm he had just conjured. The previous scene had already stunned everyone, especially Lin Jirue and the others watching below. They almost couldn't believe their eyes, because they could all see that the giant palm Lu Qing displayed was identical to the one shown by that young man in white robe not long ago. More crucially, they saw that under Lu Qing's attack, the gray-robed man could only flee in embarrassment. Has there been a major breakthrough in the young Master Lu's cultivation lately? Everyone couldn't help but have this thought flash through their minds. Who exactly are you, sir? And why do you also know the 10,000 skill palm? The gray-robed man stared intensely at Lu Qing, unable to resist asking. In his tone, there was an undeniable shock. The signature skill of his junior brother had been used by his enemy, leaving the gray-robed man shocked and leading to a series of unsettling thoughts. Is there any point in asking these things now? Lu Qing shook his head, not wishing to waste any more words with the opponent. A war saber appeared in his hand, and a sharp sword light flickered along its blade. The 10,000 skill palm just now was merely his initial trial, testing the magical techniques he obtained after breaking through to the Golden Core realm. Now, knowing that the opponent also had outstanding abilities, he was going to get serious. Asabir? Isn't this kid a magic cultivator? The gray-robed man hesitated slightly upon seeing the war saber suddenly appear in Lu Qing's hand. But before he could finish thinking, in the next moment, a premonition struck his heart. A fierce killing intent pierced through, making him almost shiver with cold. Without thinking, the gray-robed man instinctively dodged to the side. However, just as his body began to move, he felt a sharp pain, and an arm was already flying across the air. Oh, your intuition is quite sharp, able to dodge my strike. Lu Qing's figure appeared behind the gray-robed man, a bit surprised. What? The gray-robed man turned his head abruptly, clutching his severed right arm, looking at Lu Qing with sheer astonishment. Lu Qing's speed just now was terrifying. Even with his recent breakthrough and the divine soul strength of the fourth transition Golden Core, he hadn't been able to react. Furthermore, that sword light was terrifyingly powerful. The several layers of defensive Taoist skills and the protective silver light of the defensive treasure deployed on his body had failed to resist at all, being instantly sliced through. Body cultivator. You actually practice both body and magic. Kid, who are you? The natives of this world can't be this strong. Could it be that you, too, are one of those who have descended from beyond? The gray-robed man stared at Lu Qing, whom he couldn't see through, and a speculation crossed his mind. This world's recovery was still recent. There couldn't be someone as terrifyingly strong as Lu Qing. The only possibility was that, like himself, Lu Qing had descended from an external world. Strong? Lu Qing said calmly. It's just that you're too weak, merely in the fourth transition of the Golden Core. Do you think you can be invincible in any small world? Intruder, that strike was avoided by chance. But for the next strike, you won't be so lucky. I will slice your body, along with your magic power Golden Core, into two halves. Not good. The gray-robed man listened to Lu Qing's words, and an indescribable fear suddenly arose in his heart. Under strong fear, the silver light on the gray-robed man's body flourished, and he desperately retreated. In an instant, his speed increased several times more than before. At the same time, his heart and spirit surged wildly, with numerous spells emerging, blasting towards Lu Qing to block his way. He intended to retreat without a fight, trying to escape from this place. Can you escape? Lu Qing was not surprised by the gray-robed man's escape. His expression remained calm. He raised the war saber in his hand and swung it down. Immediately, a powerful sword light bloomed, slashing forward at high speed. Wherever the sword light reached, the heaven and earth laws fluctuated, and everything was cleaved open. The spells cast by the gray-robed man were torn apart like paper, turning into scattered heavenly energy. After tearing through numerous spells, The sword light's power did not diminish, continuing to slash towards the gray-robed man who had already escaped several miles away. Just as it was about to cut him in half, a somewhat tattered silver flying boat appeared behind the gray-robed man. Boom! The sword light struck the silver flying boat, unleashing powerful energy, creating a violent shockwave centered at the gray-robed man's position. Several nearby peaks shattered instantly, with countless mountain stones and vegetation debris flying all around. Though the silver flying boat was not split in two by Lu Qing, under the terrifying strike of Lu Qing, it was nonetheless slashed into a rolling motion, flying outward. The sword light's tremors and penetrating force also extinguished much of the heart and spirit the gray-robed man left inside the boat. With his divine soul damaged, he couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. Damn it! The gray-robed man saw the silver flying boat being struck away, feeling both alarmed and anxious. Alarmed by the terrifying power of Lu Qing's strike, without the void ship's protection, he surely would have been completely cut down by it. Anxious because with the void ship struck away, he couldn't immediately get inside it. With no other choice, the gray-robed man had to quickly execute his movement technique, desperately heading towards it. At the same time, the remaining heart and spirit inside the void ship also desperately urged it to come closer. In this moment, he was filled with deep regret. For a long time, he had tried every way but couldn't completely refine the void ship and keep it inside his body, making the void ship in his hands usable as just an ordinary magical treasure. Otherwise, how could he be in such a sorry state today? Lu Qing saw the gray-robed man desperately approaching the silver flying boat, and his heart stirred slightly. The phantom of an ancient giant cauldron appeared behind him. Suppress. With this word, everything within a 10-mile radius was suppressed. The gray-robed man, now a stream of light, suddenly slowed down, almost moving at a turtle's pace. Sealing-type spiritual artifact? The gray-robed man felt the powerful sealing power on him, and the silver light on his body desperately flickered, trying to resolve the sealing power using old methods. But the sealing power from the leaving fire tripod was much stronger than Lu Qing's earlier 10,000 skill palm. No matter how the gray-robed man urged the silver light on his body, he couldn't shake it the slightest bit. Fortunately, the surface of the void ship had silver light flowing, constantly neutralizing that sealing power. Though its speed was still somewhat reduced, it remained able to move. The gray-robed man immediately used his heart and spirit to urge it to rapidly approach him. As long as he could enter the void ship, there was still hope for everything. The gray-robed man had already decided that after he escaped this time, he would immediately leave this small world. The boy behind him was truly terrifying. The earlier sword light was even more dreadful than the sword light displayed by the Heavenly Tao Alliance's top-grade Golden Core true disciple, Tian-Yi, that day. He didn't doubt for a moment that if he lingered here any longer, he might really fall completely. Thinking about the pure lotus in his hands and the newly refined magic power Golden Core that was promoted to middle grade, a strong will surged within the gray-robed man's heart. His fortune was just starting to turn around. The bright path of the immortal Tao was right in front of him. No matter what, he couldn't fall here. Under an intense survival instinct, the heart and spirit of the gray-robed man seemed to undergo some kind of transformation. The rate of operation increased greatly, making the void ship, which was already near him, speed up several more times, coming directly before him. Has my heart and spirits will broken through? The gray-robed man felt great joy, about to enter the void ship. However, just as his foot was about to step onto the void ship, an invisible wave fell upon him. The gray-robed man's body became stiff, and countless illusions suddenly arose before his eyes. Is this
en illusion technique?
His heart only had enough time to birth this one thought before the gray-robed man's heart and spirit completely sank, unable to regain clarity. Chapter 634. Tao Artifact Fragment. To think he managed to break through in heart and spirit at the last moment. Indeed, one must not underestimate any Golden Core realm cultivator. High in the sky, Lu Qing approached the gray-robed man's side, gazing into his vacant eyes with a sense of reflection. He hadn't expected the gray-robed man to be able to ignite his potential at the brink of death and achieve a breakthrough in his mental will. He was just one step away from boarding that silver flying boat. With a casual gesture, he collected the gray-robed man, who was trapped in the mistaken divine skill, into the leaving fire tripod for suppression. After stepping into the golden core realm and achieving the perfect golden core, the power of Lu Qing's two divine skills also underwent a transformation. Not long ago, the mistaken divine skill could only trap that white-robed young man for a mere breath. But now, Lu Qing's mistaken divine skill was enough to immerse a fourth transition powerhouse like the gray-robed man in endless illusions. As the world's only perfect golden core, it possessed such formidable power. After entering the golden core realm, whether in martial arts, spells, or divine skills, Lu Qing had experienced a qualitative transformation, with power increasing tremendously. In the golden core realm, probably only those profoundly powerful golden core experts could withstand the erosion of mistaken. The gray-robed man had only just entered the fourth transition stage, and his magic power golden core had barely advanced to a mid-grade golden core. Unable to withstand Lu Qing's divine power, it was only to be expected. After confining the gray-robed man into the leaving fire tripod, Lu Qing turned his gaze to the somewhat battered, ancient-looking silver flying boat nearby. He had witnessed the earlier scene where the silver flying boat, under the suppressive power of the leaving fire tripod, did not lose much speed and could still move swiftly. Moreover, the gray-robed man had risked his life to enter the boat. There had to be something mysterious about it. Interestingly, the white-robed man, though it was his own magical treasure, seemed unable to control it as easily as a limb, which puzzled Lu Qing. With the gray-robed man now suppressed and no one piloting it, the silver flying boat hovered quietly in the air. Gazing at the silver flying boat, which bore no scars from his slash, Lu Qing activated his superpower to inspect it. However, somewhat unexpectedly, this time the superpower investigation took quite some time. A full 10 breaths passed without any information scrolls appearing. Usually, even for a spiritual artifact, it wouldn't take him much time to extract information. The power emanating from this silver flying boat wasn't particularly strong, yet it took this long without any response. Lu Qing continued to wait patiently, and only after another 20 breaths did he see a layer of purple superpower light float up from the boat. Several strands of informational scrolls emerged. Purple light. Lu Qing was perplexed yet again. Why did it take so long to investigate a purple light treasure? He immediately turned to those strands of informational scrolls. Void flying boat. Exotic treasure. Dao artifact fragment. This flying boat is one of the major components of a powerful Dao artifact, made of special material. Severely damaged, it retains only the power of a middle-grade spiritual device. A Dao artifact contains an entire Taoist law within, thus qualifying as a Dao artifact. This flying boat possesses the abilities to traverse the void and escape at extreme speeds. It contains a divine soul mark and has been mastered through refinement. Dao artifact fragment? Lu Qing was startled after reading the strands of information, especially the part about a magical treasure containing an entire Taoist law, qualifying it as a Dao artifact, which astonished him greatly. Even a spiritual artifact only contains a trace of the power of laws. Yet at full deployment, its power is already immense. A powerful spiritual artifact, when fully harnessed, is said to be capable of incinerating mountains and boiling seas. If spiritual artifacts are already so formidable, how terrifying must a Dao artifact, with an entire Taoist law, be? Lu Qing could not imagine such a scene. It seems, on the path of magical treasures, the level above spiritual artifacts is that of Dao artifacts. Lu Qing speculated vaguely based on the extracted information. Young master. At this moment, Yan's figure also appeared beside Lu Qing. Looking at the void flying boat, a shocked expression appeared in its eyes. This flying boat gave it an extremely unusual feeling. It couldn't articulate why, but it could sense a tremor from deep within its instincts. Young master, this flying boat. Whatever it is, let's discuss it when we get back. Lu Qing interrupted Yan's words, storing the void-flying boat into his Chenkuan bag. Yes. Yan obediently followed Lu Qing's command and returned to the leaving fire tripod. It truly realized Lu Qing's formidable power during this battle. The gray-robed man had clearly entered the early stage of the Golden Core realm, yet before Lu Qing, he had almost no ability to fight back. From beginning to end, he was completely overpowered by Lu Qing, without offering any significant resistance before being thoroughly suppressed. If Lu Qing hadn't held back, the gray-robed man would likely have been killed by a single slash. Bear in mind, Lu Qing had only just entered the Golden Core realm, and he could already easily defeat Golden Core early-stage powerhouses. After some more cultivation to fully stabilize his foundation, he would probably grow even stronger. Who knows how formidable he would become then? And Yan was aware that Lu Qing hadn't even used many of his trump cards earlier. For instance, the physical body divine power he had employed during his battle with the white-robed youth. In summary, Yan knew it was time to assume its rightful position. Lu Qing didn't notice the change in Yan's attitude. He transformed into a stream of light and, in a few breaths, returned to Juli village, landing at the entrance of the half-mountain small courtyard. Young Master Lu, Lin Jirue and the others had already arrived at the half-mountain small courtyard. Seeing Lu Qing return, they all came forward to greet him, unconsciously showing reverence in their demeanor. There was no helping it. The power Lu Qing had displayed earlier was simply too overwhelming. Especially the terrifying scene of him shattering several mountain peaks with a single slash. Anyone who witnessed it couldn't help but be in awe. Master, is everyone in the village all right? Lu Qing asked immediately. No worries, you deliberately controlled the aura of your power, preventing it from spreading here, and with the array's protection, everyone in the village is safe. The elder doctor replied with a smile. That's good. Lu Qing felt reassured. Young Master Lu, did you have a breakthrough in your realm? At this point, Wei Shanhai hesitated for a moment but eventually asked cautiously. Aside from the elder doctor, the others also fixed their eyes intently on Lu Qing. Yes, I only made the breakthrough a few days ago, because I needed to consolidate my realm. I didn't have the chance to inform everyone, causing you all to worry? Lu Qing nodded. Indeed, he had a breakthrough, although everyone had already come to the conclusion based on the power Lu Qing had displayed earlier. Hearing it from Lu Qing himself, they couldn't help but feel shocked. A while back, Lu Qing mentioned he had an epiphany and went into seclusion. Everyone was wondering when he would emerge. Little did they know, quietly, Lu Qing had already broken through. He simply chose to keep it hidden. Lin Jirue suddenly realized, no wonder. A few days ago, I vaguely sensed the presence of a heavenly tribulation deep in the 10,000 great mountains. It must have been you crossing the tribulation, young Master Lu. Earlier, he had thought it was some treasure emerging from the secret realm, and in his apprehension, he dared not venture to investigate further. Yes, the power of the heavenly tribulation is immense and could easily affect others, so I found a remote and secluded place in the deep mountains to cross it. Lu Qing did not deny. Chapter 635 Threats and Interrogation. Lu family, Lu Qing sat in the quiet room. Outside were the playful sounds of little Yen and little Li. He listened for a while, then smiled and closed his eyes, allowing his heart and spirit to enter the leaving fire tripod. Young master. Upon seeing Lu Qing enter, Yan greeted him respectfully. Lu Qing sensed the change in Yan's attitude. However, he did not correct it, only nodding and then looking toward the central position of the spiritual artifact space. There, a figure was trapped in a spatial cage, eyes vacant, face occasionally showing signs of pain, as if experiencing something terrifying. Young master, the gray-robed man has not woken up since being confined here. Moreover, I used most of my power to form the spatial cage. He cannot escape. When Yen said this, he was also secretly amazed. He could naturally see that the gray-robed man was caught in an illusion, but he couldn't understand How could such an illusion be so terrifying? To make a golden core early-stage expert remain trapped and unable to wake up. From where did young master learn such an illusion technique? The display of the mistaken divine skills was silent and imperceptible. Lu Qing had never shown this trump card, and previously only used it twice in combat with the white-robed youth, each broken in a very short time. Thus, Yan did not know that Lu Qing, apart from physical body divine power, also mastered a divine soul divine ability. Not bad, Lu Qing praised. With a wave of his hand, a divine soul wave released, dispersing the power entangled at the gray-robed man's forehead acupoint. After a while, a gleam appeared in the gray-robed man's eyes as he slowly regained consciousness. Upon waking and realizing his situation, he panicked, intending to break free. But suddenly, his gaze caught sight of the two figures in front of him, and his body stiffened. The mana contained within his golden core abruptly ceased, not daring to move further. "You are perceptive?" Lu Qing smiled faintly. "Otherwise, I would let you wake in the illusion realm for a few more days." Upon hearing these words, the gray-robed man's body involuntarily shivered. He recalled everything he experienced in the illusion realm, fear flashing in his eyes. That illusion realm was too terrifying. No matter how he exploded his heart and spirit will, he couldn't break through, only to sink deeper, unable to extricate himself. If the time had been prolonged, he feared he would be completely assimilated by the illusion, his divine soul consciousness wiped out, never to be reborn. Senior's cultivation is profound. Divine skills are formidable. Junior truly admires and submits. Senior, please be frank. How do you plan to deal with Junior? So I can be mentally prepared. At this time, the gray-robed man had already understood. He must be inside a spiritual artifact space, and the Lu Qing before him was just a manifestation of divine soul power. As for the man beside him with horns, he must be the artifact spirit of this spiritual artifact. With people in control, he was merely meat on the chopping block, so the gray-robed man instead became calm. Senior, Lu Qing shook his head at his words. As for your fate, I won't decide now. Sparing your life is only to ask you a few questions. Your honest answers would be good, but if dishonest, I'll only invest more effort to interrogate you in the illusion realm. It's just uncertain how long you can withstand my illusion technique. The gray-robed man's eye twitched, realizing he had no choice. He had already personally experienced how terrifying Lu Qing's illusion was. That feeling of being in hell, he really didn't want to go through it again. Immediately, he sighed. What does Senior wish to know? Junior will answer truthfully. Seeing his surrender, Lu Qing smiled. Then first introduce yourself, where you and your brothers come from, how you arrived in this world of ours, and your purpose? The gray-robed man paused, noting Lu Qing mentioned, our world. Could it be this mysterious figure before him was a native of this world, unlike him, an external visitor? Thoughts raced in the gray-robed man's mind, yet he showed a bitter smile. If I say our arrival was accidental, does Senior believe it? Oh, Lu Qing raised an eyebrow. Go ahead and explain. We brothers come from a very distant large world. That day we visited a secret realm, but encountered the sect's hostile forces there. Thus, under the pursuit of Heavenly Tao Alliance disciples, we unwittingly activated an ancient transmission array. Somehow, we arrived at the outer perimeter of Senior's world. This place is too far from our homeworld. Using just Golden Core realm speed, even spending dozens or hundreds of years, it's difficult to cross the vast cosmic distances to reach another world. We brothers had no way back to the sect, forced to explore this world, hoping to find a cross-domain transmission array to return home. Senior, my brothers did not intentionally intrude upon your world. If we knew it was your territory, we wouldn't dare offend in the slightest. The gray-robed man recounted the process of him and his brother arriving in this small world in detail. Of course, some things inevitably were concealed, like hiding the existence of the Pure Lotus and blaming all conflict on the Heavenly Tao Alliance disciples. He also deliberately omitted the role of the Void Ship, attributing their arrival solely to the ancient transmission array. In the end, he feigned pity, trying to garner Lu Qing's sympathy. After listening, Lu Qing's expression did not change. It was unclear whether he believed the gray-robed man's words. On the contrary, Yen beside him showed signs of shock. Though they had previously guessed the gray-robed man's brother might be external visitors, hearing the admission firsthand was still shocking. Especially from the gray-robed man's words, there were countless worlds outside like stars. The world they were from was vast and boundless, far larger than here. And this world was just a small world on the desolate edge. Great world, small world, immortal domain. Listening to these terms, Yen felt a surge of insight, realizing previous ignorance. So, you did not intentionally come here? Lu Qing asked. I dare not deceive you, senior. We arrived involuntarily. I can swear by my divine soul. The gray-robed man responded immediately. Chapter 636. Negotiating terms? Just refined to death. An oath upon the divine soul is unnecessary. Lu Qing smiled slightly. He could naturally discern that the words of the gray-robed man were half-truths. However, he didn't care. As long as he could confirm that the other party wasn't aware of this world's impending revival and had come only to invade. With a casual flick, a fluctuation fell upon the gray-robed man, invading his forehead acupoint. Let me verify if your words are truthful. Wait! Feeling that familiar, terrifying fluctuation, the gray-robed man was greatly alarmed and shouted hastily. However, before he could finish shouting, illusions already surrounded him, and in the next moment, he was once again plunged into the boundless illusion realm. More than 10 breaths later, Lu Qing withdrew the divine power, and the gray-robed man slowly regained consciousness. But this time, his eyes appeared much more exhausted. When he looked at Lu Qing, his eyes were filled with fear. It seems, sir, that you didn't entirely speak the truth just now. Lu Qing looked at the gray-robed man blandly. So, what exactly is the pure lotus? The gray-robed man was greatly alarmed. Having his deepest secret exposed made him unable to remain calm. With a move of his heart and spirit, he attempted to communicate with the storage artifact on his body, intending to destroy it. But just as his heart and spirit moved, he was taken aback, because he found that his storage bag had long since disappeared. He suddenly looked up, only to see Lu Qing with a half-smile on his face. Are you looking for this? In Lu Qing's hand appeared a delicate little bag with mysterious patterns on its surface. The gray-robed man stared intently. Wasn't this his storage bag? Instantly, a look of desolation appeared on his face. He understood that his final bargaining chip in negotiations was gone. Trapped within the space cage, his divine soul power was also sealed, unable to escape this prison, let alone destroy the storage bag. I admire the elder's meticulousness, the gray-robed man said dejectedly. Just a bit cautious. That's all, not meticulous. Lu Qing smiled slightly. The storage bag hung so obviously at the other party's waist. How could he not take notice? However, there was a restriction on the storage bag, and he couldn't open it for the moment. Elder is curious about what the pure lotus is. Isn't it? I dare to propose a trade. If Elder swears to spare me this time, not only will I offer the pure lotus with both hands, but I will also reveal the method of its use. What does the Elder think? The gray-robed man cautiously proposed. Bargaining with me? Lu Qing glanced at the gray-robed man. Judging by your expression just now, if I'm not mistaken, the so-called pure lotus should be inside the storage bag, right? Since that's the case, with the item already in my possession, why should I negotiate with you? The pure lotus is indeed in the storage bag, but it's inside a treasure box. Not afraid to tell the Elder. That treasure box has a restriction set by me. If I die, the divine soul mark within will disappear, and the treasure box will self-destruct. The pure lotus inside will also be utterly destroyed. The Elder doesn't know much about the pure lotus, right? It's a supreme spiritual medicine. It can enhance a person's comprehension, increase cultivation, and refine the golden core. Even a primordial spirit great power would go crazy for such a supreme precious medicine. The elder wouldn't want such a precious medicine to be destroyed, right? The gray-robed man tightly stared at Lu Qing, uttering each word with emphasis. Are you threatening me? Lu Qing's gaze became sharp. In that case, go ahead and die. As soon as he finished speaking, a wisp of blue spiritual fire emerged from the gray-robed man's space cage, then swelled fiercely. The next moment, the entire space cage was filled with spiritual fire. Ah! With Lu Qing's current strength, the spiritual fire unleashed from the leaving fire tripod was terrifyingly powerful. It was something the severely injured gray-robed man couldn't possibly resist. Almost instantly, his physical body began to melt. Even when using the protective silver light within him, it was to no avail, merely delaying the melting speed of the physical body for a short time. Elder, spare my life. Elder, spare my life. Terror filled the gray-robed man's eyes. He never imagined that even after revealing all the pure lotus's value, Lu Qing would show no hesitation and act without reservation. Does he really have no fear that the pure lotus might be lost forever? Feeling the continuous melting of his physical body and the terrifying power of the spiritual fire, his protective magic and magical treasure couldn't defend against it at all. Under the intense threat of death, the gray-robed man could no longer care about the face of the Golden Core realm and begged Lu Qing desperately. But Lu Qing remained completely unmoved, merely keeping a cold, hard face. Molding a spell silently, the power of the spiritual fire in the space cage doubled once more. The originally blue flames gradually lightened in color, almost turning transparent. With this change, the speed at which the gray-robed man's physical body melted accelerated once more. This spiritual fire not only refined the physical body but also scorched the divine soul. Under boundless pain, he could no longer even utter pleas for mercy. In endless fear and agony, he could only watch helplessly as his physical body, along with his divine soul, was rapidly burned away. Moreover, under the suppression of the powerful spatial force, even his attempt to self-destruct his magic power golden core was impossible. In just over 10 breaths, he was reduced to a pool of molten flesh, continually shrinking. At this point, the gray-robed man finally realized he was beyond salvation. In despair, he let out a piercing divine soul scream. Ah, demon, you won't die a good death. Just wait. My sect will avenge me. After that, there was no sound. When Lu Qing dispersed the spiritual fire, only a few dim treasure light clusters and a golden bead the size of an infant's fist remained in the space cage. As for the white-robed man's physical body, it had long been thoroughly refined away, vanishing without a trace. Young master, I thought you would forgive his life, Yen said to Lu Qing in some surprise. After all, the gray-robed man's words had moved even him. If that pure lotus was as precious as he claimed, trading it for his life didn't seem entirely unacceptable. Unexpectedly, Lu Qing didn't care at all and executed him without hesitation. This person's mind is cunning and deceitful. If he were allowed to live, I'm afraid it would lead to significant trouble later. A mere spiritual medicine is not worth the risk, Lu Qing said calmly. The gray-robed man had a background. If he were released, who knows what plots and schemes he might concoct upon returning to his sect someday. Although confident, Lu Qing didn't believe he could manage an immortal sect from a larger world. After speaking, Lu Qing's heart and spirit permeated the storage bag in his hand. He discovered that the divine soul mark within had vanished, rendering the storage bag an unclaimed object. It indicated that the gray-robed man had indeed completely perished. With a thought, Lu Qing easily refined the restriction within the storage bag, imprinting his own divine soul mark to claim it. Then his heart and spirit probed into the storage bag. Soon, he raised a brow, extracting a jade box from the storage bag. Employing his superpower to scrutinize it, a look of surprise appeared in his eyes. He directly opened the jade box, and seeing the crystal-like spiritual medicine inside and the rich spiritual energy it emanated, a smile surfaced on his face. It seems, even in the Golden Core realm, one can speak any number of lies to save their life. Chapter 637, High-Grade Spirit Stone, Competing for Favor. Young Master, what is this? Yen asked as he saw the crystal-like lotus in Lu Qing's treasure box. If I'm not mistaken, this should be the pure lotus. Lu Qing replied. This is the pure lotus. So, that gray-robed man was just trying to scare us. Yen immediately realized. It seems so now. Lu Qing closed the treasure box. After a while he said, Luckily, young master, your vision is sharp. You saw through his scheme instantly, or else we might have been fooled by him. I wasn't sure if he was telling the truth or not. I just don't like being threatened. Lu Qing stored the treasure box in his storage bag and continued to examine the contents within. The gray-robed man's storage bag was clearly remarkable. Its space wasn't any smaller than his junior's storage thumb ring, and the treasures inside were even more plentiful than that of the young man in the white robe. There were several times more spirit stones than in the space ring alone, along with many other spiritual medicines and elixirs. As Lu Qing was investigating, he suddenly felt a sensation, and a spirit stone appeared in his hand. The spirit stone appeared crystal clear and was shrouded in mist. When sensed with heart and spirit, the spiritual charm contained within was so immense that even Lu Qing was moved. So this is a superior-grade spirit stone. The spiritual charm is indeed much purer compared to a middle-grade spirit stone. Lu Qing held the superior-grade spirit stone up, a look of joy on his face. The spirit stones in the gray-robed man's storage bag were several times more numerous than those of the young man in the white robe, and there were also 5 superior-grade spirit stones. One could say that Lu Qing had suddenly become rich, possessing spirit stones comparable to the collection of an immortal sect from the ancient immortal cultivation era. Yen Elder, I need to go out for a bit. I'll leave this place to you. Lu Qing gathered the magical treasures and the magic power golden core left behind by the gray-robed man and prepared to leave. Just then, a figure suddenly whooshed over to him, circling around while wagging its tail in a fawning manner. 5 elements, you want to go out? Lu Qing looked at the winged snake with some speechlessness. Its current demeanor had none of the cold dignity of a snake. The winged snake immediately bobbed its head up and down like a chicken pecking at rice. There was nothing in this spiritual artifact space, and it was so boring that it was stifling. Lu Qing thought for a moment. The winged snake had already been enslaved by his divine soul and was completely obedient to him. Even if he took it outside, it wouldn't cause any trouble. So he nodded. Taking you out is fine, but you have to promise me not to cause any trouble. The winged snake nodded its head rapidly again. All right then, you can come with me. Lu Qing smiled, then vanished, his divine soul returning to his physical body. With a thought, he released the storage bag and the winged snake from the leaving fire tripod. As soon as the winged snake emerged, it started rubbing against Lu Qing affectionately, acting just like a lackey. Lu Qing was about to speak, but in the next moment, a shadow darted in from outside, sending out several streaks of cold light toward the winged snake. The cold light was incredibly fast. The winged snake couldn't dodge in time and was struck directly. The winged snake shivered violently and opened its mouth to retaliate. Lu Qing quickly grabbed the winged snake's head and shouted to the attacker, Little Li, wait. It's not an enemy. Little Li stopped, its claws exposed and glinting with cold light, glaring at Lu Qing with big eyes. Ah Qing, what is this thing? Just now, outside, it was playing chess with little Yen when it suddenly felt a very annoying presence in Lu Qing's room. It rushed in and saw a bizarre snake with wings, immediately slashing at it. Surprisingly, the snake was extremely tough, taking its strike without being cut through. It's called 5 Elements, a spiritual beast I subdued in the secret realm, and it will be responsible for protecting the village in the future, Lu Qing said with a smile. Protect the village? Can it? Little Li sensed for a moment and noticed that the winged snake indeed carried a hint of Lu Qing's aura. But for some reason, seeing the smelly snake nuzzling up to Lu Qing made it angry, and it found the snake very annoying. The winged snake sensed little Li's divine soul fluctuation and immediately straightened its body, pressing its chest forward, looking very proud. At the same time, one wing's tip pointed at its waist, giving Little Lee a mocking glance. Little Lee's sharp claw had slashed there, but now, upon inspection, there wasn't even a scratch on the scales, not a single mark to show. Smelly snake! Seeing the smelly snake dare to mock it, Little Lee's fur bristled, and a strand of spatial power began to swirl around it. Seeing this, Lu Qing instantly felt a headache. He didn't expect that these two creatures would act like enemies the moment they met. He quickly patted Little Lee's head to prevent its outburst. "All right, Little Lee, don't make a fuss." Then he scolded the winged snake. "5 elements, you two. Don't provoke Little Lee, and in the future, when I'm not around, you have to listen to Little Lee." The winged snake, which had been showing off, froze and stared blankly at Lu Qing. Upon hearing this, Little Lee immediately became happy and jumped onto Lu Qing's shoulder. With its front paws crossed over its chest, it looked down proudly at the winged snake. "Did you hear that, smelly snake? From now on, you have to listen to me. If I tell you to go east, you can't go west. If I tell you to sit down, you mustn't stand up." Looking at Little Lee's arrogant demeanor, the winged snake wanted to refuse, but under Lu Qing's calm gaze, it reluctantly nodded. Seeing the winged snake conceding, Lu Qing patted Little Lee's head. "All right, don't be mad. Also, don't be too harsh on 5 elements in general. It's quite powerful and can help you a lot." Seeing Little Lee squint its eyes contentedly, Lu Qing took out a golden fruit the size of an egg. "By the way, I got a lot of things this time. This spirit fruit is for you. Once refined, it should significantly boost your cultivation." As soon as Little Lee saw the fruit, its eyes widened. It could sense that the golden fruit contained immense energy and had a powerful allure for it. Little Lee immediately stretched out its 2 front paws to hold the fruit, its eyes crinkling with a smile. "Thank you, Ah Qing," not forgetting to cast a triumphant glance at the winged snake. The winged snake sensed the energy contained in the golden fruit and was equally stunned. Then it looked at Lu Qing with longing eyes, its meaning clear without words. Sadly, Lu Qing completely pretended not to notice. This golden spirit fruit was taken from the gray-robed man's storage bag. According to the information explored by Superpower, it had great benefits for spiritual beasts and other living creatures, capable of purifying bloodlines and increasing cultivation. There was only one spirit fruit, so he naturally gave it to Little Lee. The 5-colored winged snake, although an enslaved spiritual beast to him, couldn't compare to the companionship and battles shared with Little Lee through thick and thin. Chapter 638. Perfect Golden Core Skill. Gold-Devouring Beast. Finally, I've deduced the framework for the first 3 transitions of the Golden Core realm. This deduction process was much more challenging than I had anticipated. Inside the Jade Cave, Lu Qing opened his eyes, a tinge of admiration in his gaze. It had been a month since he had vanquished the man in the gray robe. Throughout this month, Lu Qing had accomplished quite a few things. For instance, he reconfigured the array in the village and taught Little Yen the water element cultivation method that he had obtained from the young man in the white robe. He also selected 2 suitable magical treasures to refine for his master, among other things. But most of his time was spent on creating the cultivation method that suited him best. Originally, Lu Qing thought that with the help of Superpower, self-creating a technique shouldn't take too long. In reality, he realized he was overly optimistic. Self-creating a cultivation technique was far more difficult than he had imagined. Even with the assistance of Superpower and having the Taoist chapter and numerous techniques as references, he still spent a month to deduce the framework of the first 3 transitions of the Golden Core method suited to himself. Furthermore, except for the first transition, which was fully deduced, the remaining 2 transitions were only frameworks. The details still required him to slowly deduce and supplement them in the days to come. However, at least they've been deduced. What name should I give this cultivation technique? Lu Qing rubbed his chin, contemplating. As this technique would be his main cultivation method in the future, he wanted a more resounding name. However, after pondering for a while, Lu Qing still couldn't come up with a good name. Finally, he could only compromise with a sigh. So be it. From now on, this technique shall be called the perfect golden core skill. This name fits well with the characteristics of his golden core. After naming the cultivation technique, Lu Qing prepared to begin cultivating. No matter how well the technique was deduced, its effectiveness could only be gauged after actual cultivation. Deciding on action, Lu Qing immediately concentrated, calming his emotions, and began meditating to cultivate according to his deduced, perfect golden core skill. Since he personally deduced the technique, each detail had been pondered and refined countless times. Thus, even though it was his first official cultivation attempt, Lu Qing was familiar with the process and quickly entered the state. As the mental method operated, the rich spiritual energy in the cave began to pulsate and was incessantly absorbed into his body. Soon, a small circulation concluded, and Lu Qing felt a slight but hardly noticeable enhancement in his mana. It's effective. Lu Qing's spirit revived, and he immediately continued cultivating. With each cycle of the small circulations, the spiritual energy in the cave was absorbed in large quantities by Lu Qing. The array within the entire jade cave also began to operate, constantly gathering outside spiritual energy for replenishment. With a large supply of spiritual energy, as Lu Qing cultivated, his magic power golden core within his Dan Tian Qi Si also gradually strengthened. However, after an hour, Lu Qing furrowed his brow and opened his eyes. He realized the spiritual energy in the cave had significantly thinned. The rate at which the array of the jade cave gathered spiritual energy couldn't keep pace with his cultivation requirements. Sensing the sluggish recovery of spiritual energy within the cave, a lustrous and smooth stone suddenly appeared in Lu Qing's hand. It was a low-grade spirit stone. He had no choice, according to his deduced perfect golden core skill. Every 36 small circulations completed one grand circulation of cultivation. And one grand circulation represented a complete first transition operation of the cultivation technique. Currently, he hadn't even completed a single grand circulation, and the spiritual energy in the cave was already insufficient, forcing him to use spirit stones for cultivation. With a spirit stone in hand, Lu Qing immediately used heart and spirit to communicate with the spiritual charm within. The next moment, vast spiritual charm surged out and was swiftly absorbed by Lu Qing. No wonder it was considered a strategic resource treasure by immortal sects during the ancient times of cultivation era. Even a low-grade spirit stone contained immensely abundant spiritual charm. Furthermore, its purity level far exceeded ordinary spiritual energy. With the aid of spirit stones, Lu Qing's small circulation speed also accelerated. After cycling through several rounds of small circulations, finally, upon completing the 36th small circulation, Lu Qing felt his body tremble, and the magic power golden core within him also vibrated, slowly rotating like a millstone. When the rotation ceased, he clearly sensed his magic power golden core's might was slightly enhanced. Feeling these changes, Lu Qing showed a joyful expression. The enhancement of his magic power golden core indicated that the first transition of the golden core method he deduced was completely correct. However, following the joy, Lu Qing frowned again. He sensed the low-grade spirit stone in his hand and found that about 1/5 of the spiritual charm within it had been consumed. In just one grand circulation, 1/5 of the spiritual charm in a low-grade spirit stone was consumed. This did not include the significant amount of spiritual energy accumulated in the jade cave beforehand. To fully master the first transition, how many spirit stones would it take? Of course, besides spirit stones, elixirs could also enhance cultivation. Among the storage magical treasures left by the gray-robed man's siblings, there were some elixirs that boosted cultivation. But after estimating, Lu Qing realized that even including those elixirs, they might not support his cultivation for too long. After making calculations, Lu Qing's expression turned for the worse. The perfect golden core he had formed was powerful indeed, but cultivating it was going to consume an alarming amount of resources. He initially thought that, with the resources left by the gray-robed man's siblings, he wouldn't lack cultivation resources for a long time. But now it seemed he had been too optimistic. The perfect golden core within him was a gold-devouring beast. After thinking for a while without finding a good solution, Lu Qing temporarily set the issue aside. He knew this was unavoidable. The perfect golden core's level was too high, its power too strong. Such a formidable golden core would naturally require immense resources to enhance its power. Each transition of his golden core would likely require an ocean's worth of resources. It seems I'll have to travel to other places frequently in the future. According to Yen Sr., spirit stones usually form where spiritual charm gathers under immense pressure. If he could find 1 or 2 spirit stone mines, perhaps it could resolve the issue of cultivation resources. Yen once said that during the ancient immortal cultivation era, any emergence of a spirit stone mine could incite large-scale conflict. Spirit stones are strategic resources that no sect can afford to ignore. Even for primordial spirit great powers, the more spirit stones, the better. They can never have enough. Thus, any unclaimed spirit stone mine's appearance is bound to cause fierce competition and bloodshed. However, Lu Qing currently doesn't need to worry about such matters. With his strength now, he believes no one in the realm can snatch from his grasp. But settling some old scores now is an option that's already available. A cold glint suddenly emerged in Lu Qing's eyes. Chapter 639. Returning to West State, Old Monk Crossing the Tribulation. Suspended Mountain. Lu Qing's eyes glistened with a hint of coldness. He had never forgotten the sect that repeatedly sent assassins after him. Previously, Suspended Mountain had retreated into the secret realm, rendering him momentarily helpless. But now, he felt that the time had come to settle this score. As for the reason, besides having stepped into the Golden Core realm, with a thought, a small, palm-sized, slightly battered, ancient-looking silver boat appeared in Lu Qing's hand. Staring at the silver boat in his hand, Lu Qing's face revealed a peculiar expression. Over the past month, he had already sorted through all the magical treasures left behind by the gray-robed brothers. Though those treasures were good, few could catch his eye. The most intriguing to Lu Qing, naturally, was the silver boat known as the Void Flying Boat. After all, the Superpowers investigation had indicated it was an Dao artifact fragment, and even damaged, its power still rivaled a middle-grade spiritual device's exotic treasure. So not long after acquiring the silver flying boat, Lu Qing refined it. It was after refining it and conducting a series of tests that Lu Qing discovered the extraordinary characteristics of this exotic treasure. Its material was exceedingly special, indestructible. Even with his current cultivation, he couldn't damage it in the slightest despite exerting his full power. No wonder the gray-robed youth had desperately wanted to escape into the boat. If he had managed to escape into the flying boat, Lu Qing might not have been able to suppress him. Moreover, the flying boat's material seemed unable to integrate into the physical body. Even after Lu Qing refined and controlled it, he couldn't incorporate it within himself, temporarily storing it in a space treasure. Even his superpower couldn't immediately identify the material constituting the flying boat. It remained unknown if his cultivation improvement would eventually change that. Aside from being indestructible and having astonishing defensive power, the silver flying boat's remaining functions were few, only 2. One was speed, an incredibly fast flying speed. The flying speed of the silver boat was exceedingly astonishing, and the golden flying boat Lu Qing snatched from that old monk at Suspended Mountain paled in comparison, not even a tenth of its speed. Moreover, this wasn't even the silver flying boat's limit. It's the limit of this small world. When Lu Qing first refined the silver flying boat, he tested its flying speed. Originally, he wanted to test the speed limit of the silver flying boat. But when he continuously pushed the speed of the boat, he received a warning from the heavenly Tao laws. If the speed continued to climb, it would exceed the limits this world could bear. At that point, he would be directly expelled from this world. That's when Lu Qing realized that a world's speed indeed has a limit. However, pushing the silver flying boat to the world's limit speed required a massive expenditure of mana. Even with Lu Qing's perfect golden core, he couldn't sustain it for long. Aside from the speed, the silver flying boat possessed a more formidable ability. That is traversing the void. This ability allows space jumping, covering thousands of miles in an instant. Further, it pierces through space, bypassing restrictions and spatial barriers freely. And this void-traversing ability is Lu Qing's confidence in settling the score with Suspended Mountain. Suspended Mountain, I want to see if your greatest reliance, the secret realm you depend on for survival, can indeed obstruct my void-flying boat. Lu Qing gazed westward. His sight seemed to pierce through space. A moment later, a stream of light flew from the mountain, speeding westward. In West State, deep within the Lingshan mountain range, thunder rolled as a vortex of gray tribulation clouds hung high above, powerful heavenly might pervading all directions. There was indeed a mighty figure crossing the tribulation here. Outside the range of the heavenly tribulation aura, several figures anxiously watched the front. These were a few old monks in worn monastic robes. If Lu Qing were here, he could easily spot that among them was the red-faced old monk who had narrowly escaped him before. Elder Qi Xian, do you think Elder Jin Zhong will successfully cross the tribulation this time? Feeling the terrifying aura of the heavenly tribulation emanating from the front, one old monk couldn't help but ask. There should be no problem. Yesterday the abbot successfully crossed the tribulation. Elder Jin Zhong has his experience shared, plus he observed yesterday's tribulation. This tribulation shouldn't be difficult to pass. The red-faced old monk slowly spoke. His aura was calm and long-lasting, seemingly having fully recovered from the severe injuries caused by Lu Qing's shocking strike with the leaving fire tripod. Upon hearing the words of the red-faced old monk, the other monks visibly relaxed a little. One of the monks chuckled and said, Elder Qi Xian, once Elder Jin Zhong crosses the tribulation and achieves the golden core, it will be your turn next. Among us, you are the one with the deepest accumulation now. The other monks nodded in agreement upon hearing this. Since sustaining severe injuries last time, Elder Qi Xian was expected to take years to recover his primordial qi. But later, the abbot used the temple's treasure to heal him. Unexpectedly, not only did Elder Qi Xian's wounds heal, but he also comprehended the principle of breaking only to rebuild, advancing further in his cultivation, with an even deeper accumulation. I'm not in a hurry. I'd rather brew for a while longer before considering the tribulation. The red-faced old monk shook his head, indicating he didn't want to rush into crossing the tribulation. He had only just recovered from his injuries, and it wasn't suitable to hastily break through tribulation. Moreover, this time, he used the opportunity of his serious injury to understand the principles of breaking only to rebuild, life and death, decay and flourishing, and absorbed the treasure of the temple. It is a time of deep foundation and solid grounding. Once he has fully absorbed and consolidated what he gained, transforming them into his own foundation. Crossing the tribulation then, not only will he have more confidence to pass through the heavenly tribulation, it wouldn't be impossible to trigger a red, or even a golden tribulation cloud. The red-faced old monk looked at the gray tribulation cloud in the sky ahead, a trace of an indescribable expression in his eyes. According to ancient texts, the tribulation clouds of the Golden Core tribulation vary in color, and their power is qualitatively different. Similarly, tribulation clouds of different colors often indicate the potential of the tribulation crosser after achieving the Golden Core. Gold is the highest, red second, and gray the third. Yesterday, when the abbot crossed the tribulation, the cloud was a pale red. After achieving the Golden Core, his aura became incredibly powerful, almost without a period of weakness. Having witnessed this, the red-faced old monk naturally developed ambitions of his own, unwilling to merely cross a gray cloud tribulation. Once Elder Jin Zhong successfully crosses the tribulation, Suspended Mountain will have 2 Golden Core realm cultivators. By then, even the other 3 great secret lands should respect us. There would be no need to fear the 2 mysterious Golden Core realm individuals that appeared in Central State. At this moment, another monk spoke. Speaking of which, what is the origin of those 2 mysterious powerhouses who suddenly emerged? Could they really be, as the abbot calculated, outsiders from beyond the heavens? A monk pondered aloud. Regardless of their origins, they certainly aren't good-natured. As soon as they appeared, they wiped out several sects in Central State and seized several newly emerged secret realms. It's clear they intend to claim all of the world's resources for themselves. These two are indeed our top adversaries in our unification of the innate world. Indeed, those two mysterious powerhouses haven't appeared for over a month. They must have retreated to consolidate and digest the resources they plundered from those secret realms. When they appear again, they will undoubtedly be even stronger, and we mustn't underestimate them. No worries, if they do not retreat for seclusion, the abbot wouldn't have had the chance to come out to cross the tribulation. Ultimately, they are only two people, whereas we in Suspended Mountain have many. As long as we all succeed in crossing the tribulation, we need not fear them any longer. And there's one more person not to be forgotten. Compared to others, that is the person Suspended Mountain must kill, the red-faced old monk suddenly said, with a tone full of hatred. That ghost-faced, mysterious person, even if we have to search the ends of the earth, we must find him and execute him by dismemberment. Indeed, there's also that ghost-faced, mysterious person. Without executing him by severe punishment, we cannot console the spirits of the many disciples of Suspended Mountain. Once the abbot stabilizes his realm, we will immediately ask him to conduct a deduction. I refuse to believe that with the abbot's golden core realm cultivation and the power of a spiritual artifact, we cannot calculate the ghost-faced, mysterious person's hiding place. The other monks echoed. Their voices were equally cold. The ghost-faced, mysterious person had killed many disciples of Suspended Mountain on that day, many of whom were their students and descendants. Such deep-seated hatred cannot go unavenged. Rumble. Just as the monks were discussing how to find the ghost-faced, mysterious person, the tribulation cloud vortex ahead, after striking the final tribulation thunder, began to slowly dissipate. All the monks immediately showed a joyful expression. Elder Jin Zhong's aura remains. He successfully crossed the heavenly tribulation and is about to achieve the golden core. Chapter 640. Boundless Hatred. 5 elements, 10,000 skill palm. As the tribulation cloud vortex completely dissipated, the old monk with a red face and others all rushed forward using their movement techniques. When they arrived directly below the spot where the tribulation cloud had been, they saw that the area within a mile's radius was already in complete disarray. Scorched trees were everywhere, many of which were still burning. It was imaginable what kind of devastating tribulation thunder this place had just endured. And in this mess, a tattered figure was sitting cross-legged. The figure was solemn, with a golden light emerging on its body. Although the vestment robe on the body was tattered, the golden light that emanated from it carried a certain majesty, making people dare not look directly at it. The old monk with a red face and others, seeing this, did not dare to disturb Elder Jin Zhong and promptly scattered and formed a formation to protect him. Before long, they saw Elder Jin Zhong's body tremble, and the golden light on his body became a few shades brighter. An aura of perfect harmony emerged from him. Successfully condensed a golden core. The old monk with a red face and others showed joy on their faces. Elder Jin Zhong slowly opened his eyes, with a golden light shining in them, appearing very majestic and inviolable. Congratulations to Elder Jin Zhong for overcoming the tribulation, condensing the golden core relics, and having hopes for longevity. The old monk with a red face and others congratulated in unison. Thank you, fellow sect members, for your protection. Elder Jin Zhong retracted the golden light on his body, got up, and bowed to the old monk with a red face and others in gratitude. Haha, Elder Jin Zhong, indeed your foundation is the deepest. After the abbot, you are the second to achieve the realm of golden core relics. An old monk laughed heartily. I was just a bit anxious, nothing more. The foundations of you elders are no less than mine. I believe you will also soon succeed in crossing the tribulation and condense golden core relics. Elder Jin Zhong smiled humbly. Elder Jin Zhong, now that you have achieved the golden core plus the abbot, our Suspended Mountain has 2 in the golden core realm. Now, I wonder who would dare to insult our suspended mountain again. Another old monk said excitedly. Elder Kumu mentioned, was it that ghost-face mysterious person not long ago? Hearing this, Elder Jin Zhong's expression also became solemn. Don't worry. That evil demon relies merely on the advantage of a spiritual artifact. His strength is just so. If he dares to come again, I will ensure he has no return. Even if he doesn't come, once I stabilize my realm, I'll go out to search for his traces. Our suspended mountain has so many disciples. How could they die in vain? Thinking of the disciples who tragically died at the hands of that ghost-faced mysterious person, Elder Jin Zhong's heart ached, because his two most proud disciples also fell at the hands of that evil demon. So he had long decided that one day he would personally kill that evil demon. Just as a group of old monks from the suspended mountain were pondering how to find that evil demon. Suddenly, a faint voice came from above them. Is that so? Now that I'm here, what can you do? Who? Elder Jin Zhong and the old monk with a red face were shocked and quickly looked up at the sky. Then they saw a figure standing against the light in midair. Wearing a black robe, standing on a golden small boat with a ghost face mask, looking down coldly at them. It's you, evil demon. Upon seeing the figure clearly in the sky, all the monks widened their eyes sharply. Some even nearly burst their eyes open from staring. The appearance of Lu Qing was a tremendous shock to their hearts. What shocked them even more was that Lu Qing had sneaked up above them, and they hadn't known a thing. If this evil demon had attacked just now, wouldn't they have been completely unprepared? The stealth technique of this evil demon was truly frightening. But after the initial shock, excitement followed. Just now, they were wondering how to find the evil demon and avenge the dead disciples. Unexpectedly, in a blink of an eye, the evil demon had proactively come to them. Evil demon, you still dare to show yourself? The old monk with a red face showed excitement and immediately summoned a Vajra Pestle magical treasure, ready to invoke it. The other monks also promptly summoned their magical treasures, intending to attack Lu Qing. This evil demon is indeed formidable and possesses a spiritual artifact. But they have Elder Jin Zhong now, a newly advanced great cultivator in the Golden Core realm. Together, they could certainly kill this evil demon on the spot, leaving no escape. Elder Jin Zhong was similarly taken aback by Lu Qing's sudden appearance. With his spiritual sense at the Golden Core realm, he had not been able to detect Lu Qing's arrival in advance. But when he thought about the spiritual artifact the other had, he felt relieved. The power of a spiritual artifact has infinite uses, with the ability to hide one's aura and shield one from karma. This evil demon must have used the power of the spiritual artifact to conceal his aura, thereby escaping his detection and appearing here. With this thought, Elder Jin Zhong suppressed his shock and coldly looked at Lu Qing. Truly, the path to heaven is wide open, but you barge into hell. Evil demon, do you really believe that controlling a spiritual artifact allows you to act wantonly? Today, I'll take your spiritual artifact and send you to the 18 layers of hell with boundless Buddha Dharma. Repent to the souls of the many disciples of my suspended mountain who tragically died by your hand. Finished speaking, a golden light emerged from Elder Jin Zhong's body, releasing a powerful aura that suppressed the surrounding area like a sweeping gale, causing trees within miles to tremble. Elder Jin Zhong. The other monks, sensing Elder Jin Zhong's formidable aura, were invigorated. The old monk with a red face was especially reassured. The aura that Elder Jin Zhong released was stronger than when the evil demon invoked the spiritual artifact that day. This time, the evil demon is surely doomed. However, facing the monk's fervor below, Lu Qing in the sky showed no change in expression at all, only continued to gaze at them coldly, as if watching a bunch of clowns. This gaze directly provoked the monks below. Elder Jin Zhong's anger burst forth, acting all mysterious. Even the sky above the suspended mountain is no place for an evil demon like you. Get down here. Before the words were finished, the golden light on his body transformed into a Buddha palm dozens of meters in size, and it roared toward the sky, intending to knock Lu Qing down. At the same time, the old monk with a red face and others, who had long formed a formation, activated their Buddha treasures. The Vajrapesal, golden bowl, precepts blade, Zen stick, etc., all emitted golden light and followed the Buddha palm to attack Lu Qing. For a moment, the entire sky was dazzling with golden light, with all the Buddha treasures, led by Elder Jin Zhong's Buddha palm, attacking Lu Qing like a massive golden dragon. The overwhelming power caused the heaven and earth laws around to tremble. Compared to this, Lu Qing's figure was like a moth before an avalanche, appearing insignificant. Yet, facing such a terrifying attack, Lu Qing's eyes still showed indifference, without a ripple. Ignorance. Then he formed a hand seal, striking out a palm. Accompanying Lu Qing's palm, the heaven and earth laws around instantly became agitated. The spiritual energy within 10 miles boiled like boiling water, rapidly gathering. In the blink of an eye, a magic giant palm, several miles in size and shimmering with 5-colored luster, was formed. In the incredulous eyes of all the monks,